All right, so kind of picking on a couple situations we had recently, and it's not saying we weren't providing experience, but when we look at this, like from meeting one, day one, we have to knock our client socks off. We gotta make an impression, and the example I always use is food because I like food. So when you're talking like hamburgers, you go to any hamburger place, if it's just an all right hamburger, how do you feel about it? It's just like, you're not really gonna talk about it. Service is horrible, the food's horrible, service is amazing, food's amazing, you're gonna talk about either of those. So all of today is gonna be geared towards that topic. We're just talking as we're starting this session up, like I just had a client, 5th deal that I done with this family, they went for sale, the owner never called me, even though I was out showing them homes. Bringing it, just not to pick on her, but she just had this happen where clients, great conversations, and all of a sudden they went elsewhere. I was talking to another client or agent yesterday, same thing, 3 different clients, thought he had the end with, all went a different direction. So this is where sometimes I feel like we're a little too passive from meeting one. I think we need to provide an experience from that first phone call, whether it's calling a for sale by owner, like, hey, do you mind if I show the house? Are you open to it? Even though they're saying, no, you can't, like, we don't want to work with realtors. But it all starts with that first meeting and it goes forever. If we're gonna build clients for life, it's gotta go. You talk to your clients, even they tell you, and I love this example, you talk about your database, people are like, hey, get me out of your list. Hey, no problem. You go to the bottom of the email, there's an unsubscribe button. How many actually go through with it? Very minimal, right? They may just got caught on a bad day, called you in a tip, like, get me off your list. Like, hey, you can take care of that yourself. And you've closed deals from that, right?
Yeah.
So there you go. But now you're offering things of value, then some people have come back around. I told you to take me off your list. And something just connected at the right time. And all of a sudden now they're a client. These are all things from day one. As soon as you meet them, they're on your list, right?
Yeah.
There you go. One thing I've noticed, too many people get a little too passive. They have that first conversation like, well, when you're ready, give me a call. Now all the cards, everything is in their court. We gotta be from meeting one, from the time we get their information, we need to be the one, the driving force of making them want to work with us. And again, that's the essence of today's class. So why are you guys here? Like, what's your goal to walk away with from here? Can I start with you?
I feel like with commissions, conversations, kind of going around and, also, are we gonna talk about like buyer consultation?
We're gonna talk about just everything, I mean, because
Okay, yeah.
all of it's a chance to create an experience.
Yeah, I feel like things are changing a bit and I need new conversation,
Okay.
new my mindset and everything.
Okay.
I think for me, like, I don't have problems like having the conversations. I don't know if I have a problem. I'm working on getting better with conversation. I think I struggle with like the best time to bring up certain topics because I don't wanna like scare them away or make them feel uncomfortable, even though it's like part of just our expectations. So that's probably the main thing of like how to approach some of the maybe more uncomfortable topics,
Okay.
to go along with where they still feel like I'm giving them.
Perfect. Yeah, we'll definitely get into that.
I'm just trying to knock out all the these classes.
There you go. I like it.
I don't feel like I am good at any kind of an experience. I am very type A. I'll get the job done for you at the high level, but I'm not very good at being all the bells and whistles and the thrill, you know, like I'm just not good at that. And I feel like I need to be better at giving an experience. Like I'm like, this is what's gonna happen, this is how it's gonna happen, I'll get the job done for you. And a lot of people like that. So far that's worked well, but I think I need to add in more foo-foo stuff. Like, I don't know how to describe it, but I need to add in more, being more friendly. Sometimes I go to answer a message, you know, like when somebody texts me and I have to go back, I'll like just write the answer out and then I'm like, oh, wait a minute, go back and say, hi, how are you this morning? You know, like I have to start it out different because I'm just so like to the point. I'm a to the point type person and I need to add better experiences for my clients.
I
So,
would add it like, just systems.
yep, yeah, we'll get into all that as well, the scripting and things like
Yeah.
that. So I'm gonna pick on your last listing, or couple listing appointments ago. As an expired listing, was a referral, expired listing. We had a conversation, what's the first question to ask? What did not work with your last agent? Because obviously they didn't just auto re-sign with that person, even though they could have. So what went wrong? You know, didn't communicate, you know, I signed the contract with them, they were never at the open house. Never shared any feedback from showing, so we didn't know good, bad, and different. It's like, great. That's not much of an experience from a listing side, right? That agent was providing, right? So now we know what trap not to fall into. So when we're taking over, especially expired listings, that's always the first question. It's like, what went wrong? What prevented you from getting this house sold the last time? Because we don't want to fall into the same trap. Whether you agree with their complaints or not, we still need to be aware of what made them unhappy. In this case, it was very valid points. She was never there, hard to get a hold of, signed the contract, and it was just kind of like ghost town.
Yeah, he literally told me that he asked her to call him on several occasions and she would only text. She would not call, like make a phone call. And I'm like, oh, okay.
That's a problem too many people have in this industry now. Everybody thinks everybody does prefer texting most of the time, and I text more than I call. But sometimes that calls more. You gotta call
Yeah.
sometimes.
I feel like,
Especially if they tell you to call.
yeah, and texting, I just feel like you might, like, they might get something different from your text than like, what
Yes.
you did. Like, I mean, I have to tell my kid this all the time. I'm like, texting and being on the phone is completely different. Like, you're taking it one way and that's probably not how they intended it to come off, or that's not how they're intending for you to receive it. So like, especially something like this is a big deal. Like, you have to have those conversations.
Yeah.
I think it'd be weird to never call. Like, it would be weird to me to never call like a person I'm listing their house with.
Short stuff is good for texting. Like I said this probably 5 times, like, when can we chat?
Yeah.
When's a good time to chat? And they'll send it back along, no, we need to talk.
Mhm.
You know, it's like, can't do this by texting.
Right. And I would say if they're only texting, I would send a video message.
Mm.
Like record a video, so it's like coming from your mouth, they can hear the tone, they can sense it, because
Keep that.
if they're unwilling to get on the phone for whatever reason, we can't armbar them into doing it. The tone can be so lost in text messaging, so easily. So if they rarely will get on the phone, and I was about to do this, I didn't expect my client, that was a call when I first walked in. I was on, he works where he can't have a cell phone now. So I didn't expect him to answer, but we have his inspection today. And he's already been a little it's a lot going on. They're in the middle of adopting 3 kids, they're selling a house, buying a house. I mean, it's just a lot of life happening. So I just wanted to calm his mind. Yeah, okay, remember, the point of today's inspection, they're looking for these kinds of things. They're gonna point out all types of stuff, but don't worry about those little things. Those are your honey-do list. We're looking for the bigger things, so. So this is a perfect example. So this is called the 24, I'm not sure if this is in your guys' guide or not, but $24,000 lesson.
It is.
So does it have the whole story there?
Mhm.
All right, let's take a minute and read the story really quick, and then we're gonna dive into it and just show how easy it can be to not even have that perception. And I think we need at least one more.
Yes. Oh, yeah. I would say, he registered, so I have another one already.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So this hits on something we talk about a lot. We're in this business each and every day. So to us, little things like an inspection, this is our like 30th inspection this year kind of thing. But for my client, this is his first one since 2018. And I did not represent him on the buy side. thought I was a little too new in the business, they used somebody else, and they got hosed on their inspection. So when we're talking through it in the listing appointment, just. Guy told them a leaking roof was no big deal, so they just had to spend over $15,000 and put a new roof on the house because it got so bad. But I was exactly, but we could go down a whole thing. So it's like his taste was like, man, this guy just did not care. He's like, we always seemed like we were a bother to him. Because there's only at that point like $140,000 house. So to him it was a small commission, just a friend of a friend recommended him. So it's kind of like free money for this guy's. That's how they felt. So going through this story here. It's exactly right. Like a sign showing up late to us, like if it's a day late. Well, to the seller, this is the first time maybe they've sold in 20 years. This is a big deal. They're uprooting their entire life. So then, like you say, things are happening here, here, and here, and everything never happens. You show up late to the meetings, sign shows up late, listing goes live a day or two late. This does not give them a warm, fuzzy feeling. These are things that it seems so minuscule to us. And this is why when we teach listing presentations, buyer presentations, I'd much rather that thing be 3 pages long and you have 2 promises in there and you keep both promises. As opposed to make a 40-page behemoth that promises all this stuff and you never do any of it. Because as soon as something goes sideways, they're gonna look through that list, be like, well, you never did this, you never did this, you never did this. That's not an experience, that's a bad experience. It's an experience, it's just not one you want to get. So when you read this story, every little thing, make sure you have all your T's crossed, your I's dotted before you start promising when things are gonna happen. Or that I will do this, that, and the other. I will be the one working the open house. I may have somebody with me, but I will be there. Because, you know, we're expecting a lot of people. I want to make sure everybody gets great service. He would be happy with that. But not you getting your contract signed and then he never sees you or hears from you again.
I've done all my open houses.
Yeah, and that's how we should do it now. When you get to a certain point, you start a team, you explain like, hey, you're hiring our entire team, so one of us will be here. Then there's that expectation. But it sounds like in this case, there is no expectation of like, should never be there. But if you set that expectation, then our expectations are met. So our goal from this, our agent goal should be repeat and referral business. You give a great experience, there's no reason they won't keep using you and they won't refer you on.
Right, and how do we change the mindset? Like my mindset, I get so much going on that I'm thinking about right here, right now, what do I gotta do? And I'm struggling with transitioning the mindset of how do I pick up more deals for this open house? How do I
Mhm.
add more to this?
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not thinking of, like, they just keep kind of coming, and so I'm just like, okay, great, this just keeps coming. But I feel like I could build a much bigger business if I could get my mindset a little bit farther down the road, instead of just right here, what's in front of me.
Yeah, so we're gonna look at this slide right here. This is gonna be an answer to that. If I ask you to go to the whiteboard and write down exactly what's gonna happen from now for 10 years, the next 10 years with your clients. When are they gonna hear from you? What are you gonna do? This is first phone call. So 10 years later, could you do that? Comes down to a system. And that's the essence of what we're gonna cover today is how the system. Now, for each of you, it will be different, what you wanna do. If you're specializing in luxury, that's gonna be different than a first-time homebuyer experience. Because the expectations are just completely different. So that's where that struggle comes from, because we can have smart plans built. Post-closing follow-up, it tells you when to call, when a card should be mailed out, all this stuff. Then you're not even thinking about it. You just go in command, go to your to-do list. And just do that for the day. And inside of there will be all of your follow-up after the closing. All of your processes during the being under contract. All of the time before the contract that you should be following up with phone calls. It takes the guesswork out if you do it properly. Because now you're saying, hey, I'm gonna call you on Saturday. I'm gonna call them on Saturday because it's on my to-do list. If you're just going off memory, it's gonna bite you in the butt. Cause at some point, it's gonna be exactly what you just said. If you got one client at all times, that's simple. Say I'm gonna call Saturday, I got one person I remember, I'm gonna call on Saturday.
And I feel like that's when you hit that ceiling or hit a little burnout, is when you don't have systems and you're trying to juggle it all and you feel like you can't handle anymore and people. No.
Think about the agents we heard speak at Mega Agent Camp. Think of the agents we heard talk at Family Reunion. There's agents out there doing 400 and some deals a year.
Yeah,
Well, they're not doing that by just winging it. They're putting the right people in the right seats. They got the right admins, they got the right buyers agents, the right listing agents, and they're able to do big business. But they could go to that whiteboard and be like, all right, when we start, we're here, when we're here, and here, and step 19 is this. They know it just off the top of their head. They just trust their system to just go do its thing. And you can build smart plans that, again, that will do that for you. Have no, ad ran, person came in, I've never talked to them, so these are all my calls I should be making. Well, I finally talked to them, I'm gonna switch them to a different smart plan. Then these reminders and these texts will be going out automatically for you. And then you just literally log in and go through your task base. So that's for the agent experience, like, that's how you're gonna get repeat and referral business, because you're doing exactly what you said you would. And when we get a little bit further into today, the top-notch experiences, again, on buyer side, seller side, or whatnot, that's gonna be different. We can even break it down by good luxury, a commercial, and investor experience. Those are all gonna be different experiences. But by the end of the session, you're gonna be able to take that and just kind of modify it for whatever your specialty is gonna be. So going into here. Notice what buyer and seller both start with. It's a good needs analysis. We don't know what their goals are. We can't provide any type of experience. Because we don't know what goal we're aiming for. This is the part I feel like so many people, even on the sell side, I feel like so many people skip over. But what's their motivation? Why are they buying? Why are they selling? We're never going to convince somebody. Buy and sell when they're not ready. It's just not going to happen. On the buy side, having a good pre-approval. So who's our lender partner we're going to trust today? And all the way down. And on the selling side, the biggest mistake I see people make is they promise a marketing strategy and they never do it. They just kind of copied and pasted it, or it's the one that was already in the presentation and they just leave it. But think about what you're willing to do for that listing. And actually do it. Property preparation. Nancy, we talked about this, like, as far as doing like staging, you've done this for your listings too. Like helping people not like bring your own furniture in, but like help them just rearrange what they already got. Or hey, get rid of this. People just get used to how their house is and they just learn to live with it. We're looking at it from a marketing perspective. So helping them see these little things that may seem obvious to you. That's fantastic.
Yeah, Brian, that's been growing for 7 years.
Yeah. Yeah. And on my listing, I just got under contract on Hewitt Lane, like, they have this big old couch, but it was a sectional, so we had them like break it apart and kind of move it into different. Cause it was blocking the patio door, you kind of have to do one of these numbers to get to their 4-season room. So it's like, that's not gonna give people good feeling, so it's like, let's move pieces around. And then they took 2 days off work to do a deep clean, they got 2 dogs, 3 kids. The house was lived in, like nothing against them, they're just busy people. So it's like they took literally 2 days off work to like really go to town and make the house shine. And it paid off, you know, we got 5,000 over asking price on the first day. And they're like, that's good. But that's advice that helped them achieve their goal. What's the experience that you could think of like around making an offer on a house? And this ties into the team meeting a little bit yesterday. Do people understand what they're signing? Like so many times we send it, and Aaron was talking about on the team, or not yesterday, on Tuesday. Aaron was talking about like, he always sends a summary, whether it's a listing or a buyer. He sends a summary of like, hey, here's what you're signing. Here's what you're agreeing to.
On the offer side, like you're asking like what we do, like if we're delivering offers to our,
Like, how do you make sure, what's the experience you provide around having your client make an offer?
Explain what they're signing.
Explain what they're signing for sure.
I think, like, just listening to the net sheet thing, you know, and I was thinking, hey, is that something that we could do through like our title company? Could I like tell my title company, like every, you know, like do a prelim title and I need a net sheet, you know what I mean? Maybe they would do that. That was something I thought about after we talked about that. the other
So
day.
there's apps that will make it a quicker process for you.
RPR takes 2 seconds.
Yeah, you can do your own net sheet.
Yeah, so RPR, there's apps called like Agent One. There's a bunch of resources out there where you can make your own. Cause I like to do that when we're talking about the offer. I like to have I just have the map on my phone and we sit there and it's like, all right, if we offer X, here's your rough monthly payment, here's roughly what you need to bring to closing. How do you feel about it? I wanna make sure that like how they're thinking about it. We just seen it too many times over the last few years where people just get so excited to make the offer. Then a few days go by and now they have that remorse. They're like, and that payment's a little salty. Or, I mean, that's a little bit more than I was expecting to bring to closing. I wanna make sure they have a full understanding of all the numbers before we actually submit the offer.
I've been leaving that part up to the lender.
But it's a little too late at that point.
You know what I mean? Like prior to going into
That's
it.
your job.
Prior than going into it, I've been like, okay, so you've gotten with your lender, you know where your payment is, you know what you'd have to bring to closing. And then, you know, yes, we know, we're good, okay, then we move forward.
Mhm.
So I've not done a whole lot of that on,
so what I do is because most of the time, about 95% of the time, we get people that they have, like, they find us on YouTube or whatever.
Mhm.
They'll watch our videos because they're thinking about moving to Fort Wayne, or they've gotten a job offer, but they don't know anything about Fort Wayne, they don't know who to talk to, they don't know a lender, like, they only know like, oh, well, I can go through my bank, but like, sometimes they wanna go like local, so the way I usually do it, I'm like, okay, well, what's your current situation, are you in a house right now, and you're needing to sell, or are you renting? What is your payment? So like I ask them like, well, what are you paying now? Because I feel like when I go like, well, how much house do you wanna buy? I don't really like that question because usually it's like, well, what payment? Like, what are you paying now?
yeah.
Do you feel comfortable paying that now? But if you could go up, what would you wanna go up to? Like, what do you feel comfortable going up to? And then from there, that's when I was like, okay, well, based on that number, this is what it'll look like if we're gonna put an offer on a house. And I do what you said you do, is like I bring out a net my phone or something I use online or whatever, and I plug all the numbers in. And I'm like, okay, well, if we put this amount in as an offer and your interest rate is this is what your payment's gonna be, this is what you have to bring to closing. I literally just did with my brother, because he lives in New Mexico,
Mhm.
and he like had no idea what to do. He's been renting, and I literally just ran him through like, okay, this is what's gonna look like if you pay this much. This is if you're interested in this, if you try to make your offer look good to where, hey, we're gonna offer you this amount, but we're also gonna pay this much towards your closing costs to like put money back in the seller's pocket, like just running them through different options. But I think the biggest thing for buyers is like, they just wanna make sure they're comfortable with their payments. So that's like the first thing, and I'm like, what are you comfortable with?
Right.
Before we would talk to a lender. And then if they talk to a lender and they're like, oh, we actually can afford more, and that we're still comfortable with paying more, we're approved for more houses we thought we were, okay, that's great too. But also then knowing like, we don't have to go to that number if we don't want to, but we could.
Mhm.
So that's.
That's great. And I just like doing it right there just because talking to the lender, I mean, it might be 60 days later. And especially right now, rates are moving so quickly. You know what, that lender had that conversation of, you know, so. But it's, you know, making sure that they got a full understanding and that super, super comfortable with what they're signing, and they understand what they're signing. So in the email, I'll have a breakdown of, hey, here's what the offer is saying, including the appliances that we're asking to stay. I'll copy and paste that into a text, like, hey, offers in your email. Again, here's what you're committing to. And then they got the right to review the documents. But again, we just know so many buyers don't. So that's where I put all those things in there. And then they know exactly, and they can never come to me and say, I didn't know what I was committing to. It's like, well, you did, you know?
See, I stop it with the price on, because they always wanna look at the price first. I'm like, okay, we're gonna hit the price. I just go through the whole contract, the entire. I said, you have to understand that these terms are important too.
Right.
So I always just make them stop and go through. I won't even send it to them. I'll send it to them sometimes to read. I'll say, hey, read this, but call me, because I gotta go through this whole thing.
Right.
You know, because that's the thing, is they don't look at those terms. See, that's why I don't like that summary thing, because then they just read the summary. And they might miss out on something else.
And I do carry a blank purchase agreement with me at all times, because if they do have those questions, we could go over it right at the house, you know, so I have blank listing contracts and blank purchase agreements with me at all times, so.
I do a summary, then I call them and I go through it all with them.
Mhm.
And then I say, please review and sign at the end on dot loop, so that they can't come back and say that I didn't tell them to review it.
Yeah.
You know,
100%.
And I gotta do better.
well, you
What
get
this is
burned a
for.
couple times.
We all gotta do better.
I gotta do
Yeah,
better.
exactly.
Seriously, like sitting here, I gotta do better because I am such a rate mentality as far as like, because I came from a rate shop. Like I'm about speed and like, and I have got to slow myself down and stay in the moment and handle what's right in front of me and not be 17 steps ahead. Like, you know, trying to do the next thing. Got to do this. I've got to do this.
So then last thing I want to point out in here, vendor coordination. Remember, all of the people we recommend to our clients are a reflection on this. Whether that's a referral partner of an agent in another market, it's a lender partner, it's even, so like I had a bee's nest that had to come down from the peak yesterday. So I was talking to the guys, like, I feel like the client's gonna be cool with this person. They go there and they treat them like dirt, they're just nasty to them. They cause damage, you know what I mean? Like, is that who you want representing you? My clients in California, they had to talk to him about billing, so he's never gonna see him face to face. But it's like, I need you to go there unsupervised and know that everything's gonna be good. So all of this is a reflection on us. And remember, these are business to business relationships. So you gotta be okay with booting these people out after a couple bad experiences, like everybody's got bad days. But second time, third time, it's like, that person's gotta go, you gotta fill that seat, because remember, it's ultimately a reflection on. You remember, the guy had nothing to do with this, it's like, well, you're the
Yeah.
middle factor, you connected these people, so ultimately, that's on you. When that's a big mistake, I see people just leave people in their sphere a little too long, they keep recommending it, and that ultimately can cause you to lose business. But remember, and this is, you know, page 5, I believe, in your guides. This is a breakdown of each of these things, and then in the appendix of your guide, these customer experiences for the buyer and seller should be in that appendix there. So I like pointing this out, this definition of what is the customer experience. It's the customer's perception of all the interactions they have with us and the value it creates for them. It is the emotions we evoke and our performance against their expectations over time. So Nancy, you brought up all the lawsuits, right? I'd venture to guess a lot of the people that wanted to take part in this, they felt like, I'm paying this, I promised this, I'm not even getting, like, what's the value of having this person even in the transaction? These were not being met. I can guarantee you could ask a lot of agents in here, how many times does commission come up in a listing appointment? You'll be amazed how many times it barely does. Because they either got referred to you or you've done such a good job building the expectation of what you're gonna be providing them on your first meeting or your first conversations. They feel fine, whatever you charge, great, let's do it. It hardly comes up. Now, if you burn them, now they're gonna start looking at all these fine details. So it's their perception going into it, and everybody's assuming the best is gonna happen. Well, then it's our job to make sure the best does happen. And then the value it creates for them. So we talk about this with for sale by owners, how many calls do they get? How many showings do they gotta bend over backwards to coordinate and all this stuff? Like I said, my clients that just went for sale by owner, they talked about how rough of a process it was. Well, there's probably some value if they'd have called me to help them represent. But it is what it is.
It was that situation last night. The way that he texted, I said, I would be happy to reach out to this for sale by owner for you. And then he sent me the text and he said, however he worded it, I literally thought he meant, no, I don't want you to do it, I'm gonna do it, right? But then I thought, I need to ask this question. So I said, just to be clear, are you reaching out to this for sale by owner or would you like me to? My bad, I left out a couple words. I would love for you to reach out to them. Glad I asked that next question because I literally thought the way he wrote it, that he was going to do it. And then I would have just not done it, I'd have been, okay, let me know if you need any help, bye. You know what I mean? Like, what, you know what I'm saying? Like, it was like, ask one more question, just to make sure, because the way he wrote it, I thought he was going to do it, and.
My question is, why did you doubt yourself? I never would have doubted myself. I just would have said, I'll reach out to him, and I would have been calling this one right then. Why did you, that mindset? I'm trying to see, you were just talking about mindset earlier. In my mind, I'm their agent. If he's sending me that physical, I already know that it's assumed that I'm gonna call
Right. I asked, would you like me to reach out to them, because it wasn't for sale by owner. Sometimes I feel like buyers, especially in this listing, it said do not want to work.
him.
Work
Ignore
with
that, they
agents.
don't want.
Okay, right, so I thought that, I thought that I wanted to make sure he was okay with me reaching out, because what if they have this view that if an agent comes in here, I'm not gonna get a chance on the house? You know what I mean? Like, I won't get a chance at this if they don't wanna work with an agent, so, I wanted to make sure he was okay with me reaching out, but I get your point.
Yeah, that's where we gotta move those mindsets.
Well, cause my thing is like, if he called
Mhm.
and the person said, well, I'm not working with an agent, was he okay with paying your commission? Because then you could have easily gotten, well, hey, he doesn't work with an agent, I can't afford to pay you.
Right.
Which it doesn't sound like he would have done that, it sounds like maybe the guy would have taken care of you regardless, but like, that's how I would have thought, is like, well, if he calls and then the person on the other side's like, yeah, you can put an offer on the house, but just know, like, I'm not working with an agent, like, it needs to
Right.
come from you directly.
Right.
Like, that, like, I guess that's a question too, like, cause I think that's a great question, like, what you asked, like, calling the FSBOs for our buyer, but I have also called FSBOs for my buyer where they say that exact thing, they say, before I could even say, I have a buyer who's interested, they're like, I'm not working with an agent, and they hit the phone. Like, it's like, I can't even get to like, well, but what if I told you I could bring a buyer? And yes, at the same time, it's different because then I think you have to have that conversation with your buyer, like, well, if they're not gonna pay my commission, are you open to covering that? And a lot of buyers can't afford that. Some can, which is great, but like, I have a handful of buyers and I'm like, I know they couldn't pay 3% extra commission on top of the down payment and
Right.
whatever else they have to bring for closing, so. I don't know, like, I guess the
So-
question is like.
So yeah, a few things here. So first, it starts with our very first meeting, explaining to our clients. If it exists, we can help. For sale by owner, expired, it's not even on the market, new build, commercial investment. If you wanna buy it, it's in the state of Indiana. I can help you. If it's anywhere else, I will find you an agent.
Amen.
Well, it seems goofy, but there are so many people, it's like, they come to me, they're in coaching, they come to me and they're like, oh, they went to the builder. Well, did you tell them you could represent on a new build? No, they did. Don't just assume our clients know these things. So to me, it starts with number one, that first meeting. If you want to buy something, I'm your first call. Now we make that conversation. Client call said for sale by owner, you see it says no agents, you still try calling anyway, that happens. Again, I like video messages more and more, because I feel like the tone's there.
Mhm.
Chances are you're calling a cell phone, right?
Mhm.
Record, but hey, it seems like we got disconnected, just, hey, I got a well-qualified buyer looking for your house. Would you be willing to work with us? You know, now we get to the commission. You can bring them, I'm not paying your commission, your buyer has to. Okay, now we go to our buyer. What's the solution? Build it into the price of the home maybe. The seller still pays it, they're just essentially financing your commission. I agree, a lot of our, especially a first-time home buyer, may not have that ability to bring an extra 3% to closing, to give you, hey, here's your check. Well, it's at 3% of the purchase price. Seller still pays the 3%. They're not out any additional money. So you gotta start with meeting one, though, they gotta understand that you can sell for sale by others. Seems obvious to us, but a client may not know that.
How do you write that in? Let's just say you're gonna offer 100,000, so you offer 103,000.
Correct.
To cover the commission or whatever. Yeah, so,
Just add it into the purchase price on the purchase agreement and then send over a for sale by owner agreement with 3%. And when you send the offer to the for sale by owner person, just explain like, hey, you're gonna see we're 3% high, you're gonna see this. You're getting asking price. My client's essentially financing my commission.
okay. And then what if they bring up the fact, what if it doesn't appraise or something?
They can have that discussion. Like, and that's where you gotta have that discussion with your buyer and with yourself as well. Cause let's say it appraises only 2% higher, are you okay only getting 2%? Or would you want them to pay you that extra 1%? So,
Would you even have, bring up that conversation or just?
that's up to you. I personally would not.
Yeah,
I would
then I feel like you're just.
Exactly.
Something that-
Exactly, because
You don't
again,
get to.
again,
Yeah, the way
for
we
us, a
think
lot of these situations
Yeah.
seems, we deal with them a lot.
Yeah,
A buyer that's buying for the first time in 10 years, you're opening these what ifs.
Mm.
That's generally you do not want to open. Cause now you're like, well, what if this, what if that, what if the house falls over in a storm? And they're just like,
yeah.
all this
Yeah,
stuff.
crack
Exactly, so you just kind of open this, but it's a conversation you gotta kind of have with yourself. But with that said, one thing I will say, and the person I saw do this the best was Reagan Stackhouse. So she got buyer agency agreements years ago signed. All of it. And she would explain, hey, if they're paying me 2.75, you're paying me 0.25. That was at meeting one, it was in that set expectation meeting. So when she went to her clients at closing for her extra 0.25. They didn't have an issue. They knew from the jump, she's getting 3%. It's either all from the seller or from the seller and some from you. She set the expectation. There was never an argument. The arguments would have happened in that first meeting. She hammered it out. So this gets back to our buyer agency agreements that Lee was saying, sounds like starting July 1st, if it gets passed. They're gonna be required.
Are you gonna talk about going through that conversation? today?
We'll talk about the conversations in general. I'm not gonna get too in depth because I don't know, are they gonna change the agreements when, if it becomes law or whatever, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
So we'll talk about them in just a general
okay.
sense. So, but look at the, you want extraordinary results in your life, you cannot be average. Again, we talked about it, like if you're gonna open a restaurant, average food's not gonna get people talking. If your food knocks their socks off, they're gonna tell everybody in the brother. And then this was the essence of the MRE. We don't have leads, we got nothing, nothing else matters. We could teach you the best post-closing follow-up plan, but if we never have a client to talk to, it doesn't matter.
Okay, I gotta say something real quick. So like, just to make it clear, like my clients, this is like never complain with my customer service. They all think I'm fantastic, but I hear like other agents and things that they do, and I'm like, yeah, I'm not doing that, I'm not doing that, I'm not doing that. You know what I mean? So I feel like I wanna raise the bar, if that makes sense. Like, they don't think I'm doing crappy. I think I'm doing crappy sometimes because I see what's going on behind the scenes, if that makes sense, like,
But you're at a point in your business where now you can take it to the next level, so you're just past 1 year in the business. So your first year is just learning the ropes. So you don't necessarily want all the bells and whistles yet, because you're just like, let's just get a basic deal to the finish line. All right, now we did that. Let's get our first list. Great, we did that. Now we're helping somebody do a flip. Great, we've done it. You've learned a lot of different things. Now it is time to, let's ratchet it up. Cause now you're like, your one listing you just got under contract. You had to compete with 4 other agents.
Mhm.
That's gonna start happening more and more, because you kind of worked your way through your sphere. Now, when you get to the competition part, when you're competing for buyers, competing for sellers, they're gonna put you guys all side by side, like, well, this person, she said she's gonna do this, you said, I'll do what I can. Who's she gonna pick? You know what I mean? You know, so that's where it's gotta be, you know? So that's where we do have to have a formulated plan, but then we gotta have the system around to actually do the stuff.
Right,
So if she promises she's gonna do this, I'm sure you're gonna do this, because you've done it long enough, you're like, I know who I need to call, who can do it. It's not on her shoulders to do it, it's who do I call to make it happen? Hey, got a listing going live, who do I call? So Jason Mann, hey, get over there, photos, this day, can you do it? Great, awesome.
Yep.
Then you do agent walkthrough video, can you do that? Great, when are we doing that?
Yep.
Then you communicate that with your client. Here's the day we're going live, we better go live on that date. Even though the MLS has that like buffer of a day or two. We say we're going live on this date, they're coordinating their life around that date.
Yeah.
We need to go live on that date. So it's not bad that you should always be looking at your business, hey, what can I do a little bit better? But before we add too many bells and whistles, let's get our system, let's make our day-to-day a little bit easier. Cause there are times you're just kind of grasping at straws as they go by. And stuff will start falling to the ground, and then that's when clients will start getting it. So we kind of dove into this, unless there's something specific, you guys, we're talking about this at the very beginning of the session. So unless somebody's got something to add. Customer experience. The myth defined by you. It's created by you. But it's defined by our customers. So by working with our customers, now we understand what kind of experience we should be building. Because what we think might be important to them may not be the case. Actually being out in the field working, you'll understand what's important to your clients. And again, it's gonna be broken down by the types of buyers. First time home buyers versus, you know, people downsizing. Things like this. The NAR stat that always blows me away is over 80% of the people within 2 years of transacting can't even remember the name of their agent. So that means they started and stopped at the end of the transaction. Say, hey, buyer, you want to buy something? Great. They sold it to you. They got the commission check. And it's crickets. You never hear from them again. So within 2 years, they're like, what was that guy's name? And I've been to closings where people met their clients for the first time at closing. That just blew me away. I mean, it doesn't happen often, but it's like practically even happened once, that just blew me away. Now, did they have buyer's agents or whatever? But it's just crazy, because like you said, people want to text, they don't want to get off the couch necessarily, they don't even talk on the phone. So,
Millennials just wanna email you.
exactly.
Well, that just happened to me where I met my clients for the first time at closing because they lived in a different state.
Well, there, I mean, that's a different thing, yeah.
But they were, so I couldn't even like FaceTime and do things with them to meet them because they were,
Right.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like even trying to do the contract for them to sign,
Mhm.
they had to have a friend come over to help them because, you know, and they only had one email, you know, for both of them. I mean, it was
They were an older couple.
on my end, it felt like a lot, you know what I mean? Because there was a lot of extra things they had to do to make sure that they were comfortable, we got everything that we needed. And yeah, it was, but you know,
Yeah.
you do what you gotta do.
100%. So, and that, I mean, I'm talking when we're in the same town and they're,
Oh.
because so again, is it a big team where it's a team leader going and, you know, coming in to take the money and just be like, you know, I'm at a closing, but it was like all, like the buyer's agents out doing their thing. And that's fine, but it's just crazy that that happens. So the myth meets the customer's needs. Gotta go deeper than that. So meets their needs and connects at an emotional level and exceeds expectations. So had a closing down in Peru, Indiana yesterday. So I represented the seller, another agent from a brokerage down there represented the buyer. When she was getting ready for the showing, she called me, she's like, look, here's my buyer situation. She needs it to be a safe house, she's by herself, she lost her husband 6 months ago. Just her and her kid, we've gone through 18 houses, had 2 other deals fall apart because they were trying, she felt like they were trying to take her over the coals on the inspection. So she's like, it's gonna be a rough inspection. She set the groundwork for me. It's like, hey, totally get that. So even though it wasn't our client, I prepared my seller like, hey, this is what's going on. Just understand the situation. And she definitely understood. So this was a house that was flipped, you know, as an investor of mine. So we get through the inspection, and there's a couple things that we kind of assumed would come up. But she's like, we want to run a camera down the sewer pipe all the way to the sidewalk. It's like, nothing's in the inspection. She's like, here's the deal. On our last house, they happened to notice like something wasn't right. They scanned it and the pipe was crushed by a tree root. And basically the sellers wanted to essentially, not really, but essentially duct tape the problem. So that makes her feel better. More power to them. You know, because it's like, we have nothing to hide. So they did it, everything was great. And this girl yesterday at closing, it was like, this is her first step post this amazingly tragic thing. Her client was right there by her side, never forced her in anything. We even on the other side, not even attached to this client, try to make it as easy and pain-free for her as possible. And the agent said when the appraisal came in and everything was good, and I was like, all hurdles cleared at this point. She just started crying. She's like, so this is actually happening. She's like, yeah. So she's like, we sat on the phone for about half hour while she cried. I was like, you know, we can have that kind of impact on people's lives. Like, our goal is not to force somebody into a painful situation. She stuck up for a client when that deal was going sideways. It's like, you want to do this? I mean, that's a thousands of dollars repair potentially. You essentially just want to tape it together. So we try to make it as easy as possible, but not necessarily needing to spill the beans about all of our clients' situations, but now, I mean, that, okay, now I'm in her mindset. I understand she's not trying to be difficult. She's like, just trying to move on with life. So now we got an expectation. So she set that expectation out from the get-go. And again, we're talking about customers, but remember, other agents are kind of our customers too. We need them to necessarily bring us a buyer, or we need them to get listings so we can take our buyers to them. So when we're talking about this, remember, this could be agent to agent as well. There is no one size fits all. So we might have a CEO that's a hard driving guy, and we might have somebody that's just buying off pure emotion. Hey, this looks like something I want to live in. Then you got investors, it's a dollars and cents game. It's a business transaction, there is no emotion. You gotta be able to kind of live in both worlds. They hire us because there's stuff they don't even realize is gonna be an issue. And we can see it a mile away. This is why we teach real estate 201 for new agents. Like, go figure out what type of heat source is in there. What could be the issues with that? That crack in that basement wall looks a little suspect. What does that possibly mean? Our clients may not see any of this stuff. This is what they're paying us to do. We should be able to point these things, hey, just so you're prepared, the inspection may point out, you know, this furnace is about 30 years old. So it may not be working properly, or we may need to get something done to it. So they get wowed by all the shiny new stuff. This is what they're looking for. This guidance of like past experiences and situations you've had to overcome.
That really is that one is a big one. I just had a referral that I've been showing houses to. So I tell them going in, not only am I looking at this like, are there any issues, but also for resale value. So in, you know, however many years, if you know, I hope you call me, but you know, is this gonna be worth what you're paying now, you know, in 5 years? Well, not only that, but I would point out some things. And so after the first time, you know, looking at houses, I think we looked at like 5 houses. And they called the person that I was, you know, that referred them. And they said, we love her. She showed us things that we didn't even think about. You know, and they were first time home buyers, so they didn't really even know what they, you know what I mean,
Exactly.
like what to look for,
Mhm.
or,
Yeah.
you know, and that was, for them, that was like huge. So
Yeah.
that's a,
And I take the approach, and Ben ironically enough has this about career night. He's like, when I work career night, I almost talk agents out of try to talk them out of getting in the business. So if they can overcome that, then they want to do it. There's times and I actually have done this a few times recently where I've talked my buyers out of pursuing a house they thought they wanted. It's like, these are things you said you didn't want to have to worry about, and this house has X, Y, Z, so we probably don't even want to go see it. And when we've been at a few houses, they're like, you could almost tell they're like, just tired of looking, like we're almost, like they're ready to settle. It's like,
no,
we're talking about a month or two of time to be here 10 years or more. Let's take our time. So I almost try to talk them out of it. And that's something they may not appreciate now, but down the road, when they get the right house, it will be something that they appreciate. We kind of talked about this. Right now, you're working off just whatever feels like I need to tackle today. So that's working off just, hey, this organically feels like it should happen today. We need to be intentional. We gotta be intentional what we're working on today. We gotta prioritize it. We may not be able to get to everything in a day, but we gotta be able to look at that to-do list, and there's a reason that to-do list can be prioritized high, medium, low priority. Go through what's due today. And don't be afraid to take like 5 minutes to prioritize. Like if I only get the stuff that's high priority done today, I'll make it cheap. And then schedule anything left over for the next day. Just because you feel like it's good, this is how you're gonna be able to tell. Are you getting a repeat and referral business? So Jennifer just hit that situation, like they called the person that referred it, like, thank you for putting this person in one. That's how you know your system's working. That's how you know your customer experience is exceeding what it should be doing. Track where your leads are coming from. I'd venture to guess, most people don't. But did this Facebook ad bring them in? Did this person give me a few referrals this year? Track the lead source so you know where they're coming from. It's also a chance for you to not only gauge, is it working, but it's also a chance to say thank you for those people for referring business your way. And this talks about exactly that. Take care of the people who take care of you. Somebody sends me a referral, I'm sending them a small thank you. Thank you so much for connecting me and this person. Then if that deal gets to closing, I'll send them something else. This is where good needs analysis, you get to know your people from working with them. You can send them something kind of custom for themselves. So if they like going out to eat at restaurants, find a restaurant that they like. They like playing golf, maybe you get them a gift card for golf course. And don't just send, maybe they want to do local coffee places, don't send them Starbucks gift cards. Like find a cool local coffee shop, you could send them gift cards to. It's the 80-20 rule, right? 80% of your revenue comes from 20% of your existing customers. So there's gonna be customers that they buy and they just sit there, they don't move for 30 years. You got investors that might do a lot of deals, but they're small deals. Those first time home buyers though, probably in 3 to 5 years, they may move. That's the traditional like first time home buyer timeline. 3 to 5 years, maybe 7 years. Well, they're gonna be repeat. Now they gotta sell and then buy. And if you do a great job for them, hopefully they talk about their friends to you. So then referrals come in from that pocket of people. It's not rocket science, what we do. It's not easy. But it's not overly complex either. So how many referrals have you got from your top referral client? Do you happen to know, like roughly?
I'm terrible with referrals.
Okay,
Yeah, I get maybe 1 or 2 a year,
okay,
almost all my prospecting. I gotta get with it, it's one reason too. I can't say another reason I'm here.
yeah,
I suck at referrals.
okay. Well,
I can
definitely,
ask for
we're definitely gonna get into that.
them.
Same question to you too. Like, if you looked at like the referrals you've gotten, is there like one client that's just been like your biggest like
Yeah.
Yes.
cheerleader? How many do you think roughly, if you don't know, there's like a rough number?
Are you saying?
Like, how many referrals has that person, like this client Jane sent you like 4?
Oh, probably, he's probably sent me 12. Yeah.
I've got one, she sends me one every year, she lives in Tennessee.
Mhm.
She's a friend of mine, we used to work together, she's in real estate in Tennessee, but.
Okay.
So. People she still knows, you know, she says, I would say at least 1 year.
Wow.
I would say that in my business, 60% is probably referral. The rest is. prospecting. Not real problem.
You've been against that since day one. You made that clear.
I know.
That ain't happening.
Same.
It ain't happening. But
Yeah.
all prospecting, no prospecting, but you're both being successful.
Yeah, that's what I like, you
There's-
know, the fact
yeah.
that you can be successful doing it in a lot of different ways.
And that's where I always bring up like Jake McAfee's team. It's like 4 hours a day, every morning. Hit the go button on the dialer and you sit there 3-4 hours. That's the expectation. And then the other example I always use is Andrea Call, because she is that same way. I don't prospect. I'm part of every group, organization, volunteer. I got billboards.
Yep.
I make an impression on everybody I meet. I'm out in the community shaking hands, kissing babies, and that works for me. It's like, you gotta find your lane and then go out of your comfort zone a little bit. But.
You
there's
told
multiple-
Yeah,
That's his background, like from Xfinity days, right, or Comcast days.
yeah.
I've never done that.
I will expireds, but that's it. I'm not a full caller, but I'll call expireds because they already have.
Mhm.
It's not like something new, that you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know.
But alcohol expires. Sorry.
She alcohol.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry.
Oh, is there alcohol today? Yeah.
Sure, if we look far enough in some drawers, there's something. So, but that's where, again, you gotta find your lane, and that's where, when we talk about lead generation and Ignite, we just got done doing the whole lead generation section. And what I was telling people, it's like, this is not a dirty word or dirty phrase, it's like, because so many people hear it, then they're like, you know, they like tense up, it's like, I'm not gonna just give you a phone book and say, best of luck, this isn't 1982. It's like, find a path that works for you. Social media works. Social media works for Frankie and Million. Does really well. Just talking to people in town works for you, and prospecting works for you. Like, you gotta find your lane and go to it, but again, it gets back to, what's that experience gonna be?
I
And your
get
cold
plenty on
calling,
social media.
Yeah.
But I don't hardly ever talk about real estate on my social media, like very little bit of real estate. It's not all real estate, but I get messages all the time. Like, when I'm ready, you're my girl, if, you know, like, people send me people, I get referrals through it, yeah.
well, here's, when we teach social media, we tell, so 80-20 is on here, 80% should be personal.
Yep.
Only 20% should be business. We all have that friend that starts selling candles or essential oils or whatever.
Jeez.
And 100% of their posts is buy from me, hey, join my downline thing, like, buy from me, buy from me. And then every time you see their post, you're just like,
Yeah,
And just-
no lights.
so
Yeah.
you post pure, probably 98% business, or personal, like 2% business.
goofy, I'm goofy,
Right,
man.
but it makes people
People,
feel like they know you.
yes.
Same thing
that's
with
it.
you. It's just like, hey, here's what I'm out doing.
Yeah.
People feel connected to you. It's not a business transaction. It's
Yeah.
like they know you as a person.
Right.
And that's what works for you. I hate posting on social media.
We
Like
know.
with a passion. So it doesn't work for me, you know what I mean?
Right.
So that's where you gotta find these lanes. So when we're teaching lead generation, it's like, what path are you taking? But then what's that experience gonna be like? When you're cold calling, you have like, maybe if you're lucky, 2 seconds to capture their attention.
Yep.
Because you're just kind of calling them out of the blue. They're not expecting your call. So you got like this minuscule window. And you gotta be really good at capturing their attention. So what's that gonna be like? What's that experience to connect to that emotion, to what problem they may need to solve?
You get 7 seconds.
I don't know.
You might be that good. I don't-
Statistically, you get 7.
Okay. So either way, it's quick.
Yeah.
It's, you gotta capture them. And again, because they're not expecting your call. So, true. It's easier to keep a customer than it is to get a new one. And I think all of us can agree to that. Like, once we have a customer, keeping them in our database, keep them working with them. It's much easier than finding a new one. 'Cause if you're cold calling, it's like maybe 1 out of 100 calls, you can convert into an actual word going somewhere. Maybe give or take some, but that's kind of the big average they give you. But once they're in your web, you need to do everything possible. And so I want to kind of dive into here. So what's the longest, I'm going to just kind of go around the room. What's the longest you've had somebody from like first conversation to actually transacting, like timeline? Like 6 months, a year, 4 years, 5 years?
The first conversation to what?
So when they actually closed their first deal?
Ooh, I wanna say, I think the longest one I had was a year. We
Okay,
looked at houses for a year.
okay,
I think mine was a year and a half.
okay.
Probably like 8 months or so.
I go years.
Years, huh?
Yeah, I've had some long ones.
But the idea is, once they're in your web, they're hearing
Oh,
from
I
you at
never.
least once a month, and,
Tell me that, yeah,
yeah.
till you die, buy or buy,
right?
Yeah, you know what?
die, buy or buy. They either die, they buy with me, or they tell me to go away. That's your 3 options.
Guy,
Yeah.
That could be a shirt right there.
I'm saying.
Right.
I like it.
So you can see, I mean, we want to keep them in. That doesn't mean we gotta pick up the phone every day, but they should be on a safe search, a monthly newsletter. They're hearing something from us. Again, there's the system around from that first conversation, we should know what bucket are we putting them in.
Mhm.
Hey, credit issues, I got ways to work, and then I gotta save up money. Okay, you might be a couple years down the road. Perfect. So we're gonna put them in kind of that nurture bucket. What's our system around that? Oh, they're ready, like they saw a house today and they're ready today. What are we doing with those people? How are they hearing from us all the time? And then that middle ground, that person that's like a year away. Those are what I call like the watch bucket, right? So they may say a year, but they also might be 8 months. If the right house pops up, it may be quicker. So what does that look like? All of those should have a system around it that's ultimately creating the experience. Like, how often should they hear from you? And again, you should be able to whiteboard it. Like, whatever that person, what bucket they're going in, we should be able to create a system around that, and then you know exactly how often they're hearing. Say if they go more than a month without hearing from you, they've probably forgotten about you. I would not go, even if they're 2 or 3 years down the road, a once a month touch is not a bad thing. That's not too much. But it needs to be that crystal clear what that is, because it takes the guesswork out of it, takes that stress out of it.
I mean, my biggest thing is having a time block, sticking to the time block and doing during, setting my day up that way. Because it's, I mean, like if I would set aside time and stick to that time, this is for follow-up. I'm gonna spend the next 2 hours following up with all of my clients, all my prior clients, potential clients, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so great, this wouldn't even be that hard, but to get to, being a single mom and doing real estate and town council and running a kennel and all this thing, it's just like, I am so all over the place all the time, just doing what I need to do at the moment. So time blocking issue, the concept of it is amazing, and just doing it, like, I have a time block. I have it sitting at my desk. I can see it every day. Do I do it? No, absolutely not. One of
So
the
you,
big
so you got
things-
nothing.
So I got nothing. Like, it's my, I mean, everything I'm saying right now is totally my fault. Like, it's my fault. It's my, like, inability to have structure in my life. It's just flying by the seat of my pants all the time. Like, I mean, it's just, that's what and the one thing that I do have going for me that's really great is people never forget how you make them feel. So the way that I capture people and my business is because for whatever reason, I can be with someone for 3 seconds and make them feel heard and valued and loved, and they keep coming back. You know what I mean? Like, so in a short period of time, I can connect emotionally with people, and that's what's winning for me. All of this follow-up and all this other stuff, like I suck at it. Like, I have got to do better.
That's a perfect segue. So on page 13 at the very top is from story from Maggie Miggins, I assume is how you say her
Okay.
last name. So the customer experience is so important because you're in people's lives. Remember that, we're in their lives, like we're an integral figure. Buying and selling a home is one of the biggest decisions they will ever make, and we need to make sure their experience is seamless and that they do not have to worry about anything. I look at that as answer the questions before they even know there's a question to be asked. Our systems and our experience should be that great, because we do this all the time. We know what this process is looking like. They don't. So let's have a system where that question that they may even have on day 10 is already answered before it becomes. We need to give them extra value, putting those extra bows on things that make sure everything is flawless. We cannot give our customers a great experience. We are not going to get their business back, and we will not get referrals. So 12 referrals from Nancy's biggest cheerleader. Doing something right.
Do what? Oh, I give them Ray-Bans.
Or Ray-Bans there.
Oh, I take them out all the time. Yeah,
There you
nice.
go. But you know that that's his thing.
That's the same.
And it's like, hey, I want, Aaron Hoover did the cut code knives, like he did like a $1,500 set of knives for just referring business, and he would track which
Yeah.
knife he
I-
gave you on which thing. And
I give the Cutco knives because they have my name on it, and when I give it to them, I'm like, oh, and by the way, my name's on there, so you never forget it. You know?
I do cutting boards, like the
Yeah,
charcuterie boards, like, so they can either be, so, and then they just mail them directly to my client, they'll do a handwritten note for me, it's like $45, but for
does it have your name on it?
one side's the logo, like logo and my name, and the other side's like some cheesy, like, oh.
I need to get that info.
Yeah, I do.
Send it to you.
Those knives are like $114, I think.
And you
know
can-
what? I to myself first, and it's, yeah, I've had a great response from.
Yeah,
them.
I mean,
Cutco stuff?
I think it just depends on,
Cause I had one client who said,
Yeah.
I
But,
did the Jeff program, if I got you a check or I got you a house,
yeah,
I've never thought to do gifts.
you don't have to, but again, but if you're gonna do it, like, do it again, like, what's our goal in mind?
system.
Exactly, so everybody gets, is it like a calendar magnet or just a magnet?
I do my name, you know, like my business card.
How many people put those on the fridges? I see them all the time. How many times are you at a showing and you see like so-and-so agent, and then you can tell that magnet's old, like it's been there for a while,
Yeah.
you know, it's just the wear and tear.
Joe,
It
that
works.
first word,
Uh,
when he was sitting here,
Yeah.
he was showing one of my listings and he sent me this picture because my clients had all my, like, from when I was at a different company. And he's like, he did, you know, that they have this on the refrigerator.
Your clients are obsessed with you, they have like a little shrine on the fridge.
I love it.
That's so nice.
But again, some you just put up there, you're like, oh, okay, like, and then it's just there, and subconsciously, they're seeing your face every day, so.
Right.
I mean, you don't have to spend $100 on a gift to or the magnet, 50 cents for a thing of magnets. So,
Yeah. I mean,
they're not much, you know, that's what we can say, so, you know, but again, what is it gonna be? And you can just talk, I always, again, I look at the experience that I'm trying to get to my clients, like, my biggest thing is I wanna answer questions before they even think of them. Cause when they start thinking of these questions, what happens inside of them, they get a little stressed out. That there's too many questions piling up, then that's a lot of stress, but then you get that freaked out phone call. You can just hear like their voice, like just in pure panic, and now we gotta bring them back
How
down.
you feel when I call you? Freaked out phone call.
In the beginning, you definitely had a lot of those calls. Now it's like, hey, I'm just kind of verifying
Yeah.
how I'm thinking about this. Again, just reiterating this point. Stay in a relationship with your database is the number one way to get more business. Numbers don't lie. Nobody will recommend you. They'll be like, why are you using this person? They're horrible. This is why. Whether you agree with it or not. You need to listen to these things. So let me ask this question. So we're competing for a listing, or it's even a past client, and you find out they listed their house with somebody else. Do you ask them why? Or do you just be like, thanks for the shot. Or are you bold enough to be like, hey, glad to hear somebody's got you taken care of. Just out of curiosity, did I do something to not earn your business, or what could I have done better to earn the business? Do we ask that question?
Yeah, because I'm too chicken.
I mean, I'm gonna be completely honest, so far, I haven't went in for a listing and haven't gotten it. I don't know, I mean, but this one that I went up against several people. He had said he was gonna make a decision most likely by Monday night or Sunday night. I didn't hear from him Monday morning. I texted him only because I was coached to do this. Like, you know, I was like, okay, how do I handle this? I was coached to follow up the next morning, still didn't have an answer. Tuesday, I followed up again, you know what I mean? Because I was coached to follow up again, because I don't know that I would have been that aggressive about it. And it paid off, but I had already in my mind, if I didn't get it, how was I going to respond and what I was going to ask, you know what I mean? Like, what did they do that I didn't do? And that was going to be my very next thing. If I didn't get it, I was going to immediately say, I need constructive, you know, criticism, feedback, tell me what I didn't do properly to get this.
I'd 100% recommend, just because we want to hear, like, maybe it was like nothing, maybe it just came down to dollars.
Yeah,
Like they offered to do it for 4, you wanted 6, it's like,
yeah,
I believe in my value at 6 or 7%. I'm not a discount agent, so I'm not gonna do 4, you know, so. If it comes down to that, like, and now it's the only thing, it's like. Nothing I can do, like, I'm not throwing the money away, you know what I mean? So, but if it's like, well, they talked about doing, but maybe it's a learning experience, like, it's like, oh. Or, hey, like when you showed up, you didn't have this stuff. Oh, great. Now maybe I need to be prepared with that. And I always tell people that when you go to a listing appointment, take anything you might possibly need. Chance of you getting to it might be minuscule. But if it comes up, you're prepared. And it shows ultimate preparation. So I would 100%, if you miss out on a buyer, you miss out on a seller and you can get them on the phone. It sucks because it hurts. It's just like. Sometimes it's like kind of like a dig right in the side. It's like, but it's how we get better too. So don't be afraid to ask that question. You guys ask for reviews at the end of a transaction.
mhm.
Yeah. You guys do.
I asked for reviews even if. You didn't make it to the closing table, because I mean, like, I had a person that. Literally the other day, and we had this conversation beforehand, and he was like, oh, we built, and then. Unfortunately, the person on my end, I didn't have the agreement signed, they changed their mind and they went to go without me, which is what it is. But he was very much like, we still appreciate everything you did, and I literally was like, would you guys give me a review? He was like, absolutely, we'd love to give you a review.
So how are you getting reviews? Like what?
I have it on my Google business.
Google business?
Yeah,
Okay, that-
just like through Google.
I
and
just did that.
I just and you can just copy like the review
Right.
and just send it in a text
So
message.
somebody keeps telling me that my Google reviews isn't set up correctly.
So
I think
It's the same.
it's spam.
Yeah,
They're trying to sell it to you.
yeah.
So the way we do it on our team, we have an email that goes out, thank you so much for working with us, and it's got Google Business for the team, my personal Zillow page, and then realtor.com.
Okay.
And we just went in, captured the link, like you were just saying, and we send it out, and then we send out a reminder 2 weeks later, 'cause right at closing, there's so much going on, like their lives are chaotic, they may see the email, forget about it, they may not, they're like, that's the least of my concerns right now. But we do know some agents, they actually take the approach as soon as it's under contract. That's when they ask for the review with the mentality, that might be the happiest they ever are. Is when it's first under contract, so you haven't gotten inspections yet. I haven't gotten to appraisals yet, and if it gets salty, so there are some agents here that actually ask for it at the contract phase, not at closing. So, but, you know, as much as we hate Zillow, it's a good one to get reviews on.
And to be honest, I even said it to people, like my friends and family, like none of my friends and family live here in Texas, like, hey, you want to give me a review? And they're like, yeah, like, do it, say anything, I'm like, no, just give me 5 stars. Cause it just bumps our reviews up, like, how are they gonna know, like,
Right.
Am I still in our house or not? Like, so that
Yeah.
you can slide that too.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say pick and choose which ones you send it to, like there's
Oh, yeah.
about a handful over the years where like, I tell Lorraine, like, they're not gonna have anything good.
Yeah.
It's like nothing, we could have gave them $1 million and they're like,
Yeah.
why do I not have 2 million? You know, there are those kind, yeah, it's just like. No matter what we would have done, it's not gonna be good enough. This is. Who's all worked in a restaurant?
Oh,
It's
So we can say this is 1,000% true.
We own a restaurant, I know.
Oh, you did? Or
Well,
maybe I-
it's a bar restaurant.
Okay. I don't know if I knew that.
So, yeah, we get tons of people, oh, we love the food, but there's always somebody.
Yeah.
Just
They'll tell you they love the food, they won't tell anybody else.
Right.
Like, hey, it was great, and here's $1 tip.
yeah.
And then, yeah. So. We're on pause here for a minute, catch up on calls, we're gonna take like a 5-minute break, and just kind of think about this question. So for this is for you guys that work, we're not gonna go over each.
Yeah.
Person's thoughts, because again, what each of your experiences are different. So just use this for, as we get going through the rest of this, what you guys can do. Actually, let's start on page 25 really quick. Because I think this is a very valid point, what she's making. So another agent from New Jersey, apparently they're talking to everybody in New Jersey.
Yeah.
So Sue Adler is a mega agent from Short Hills, New Jersey. And runs seminars, but her point's very valid, and the quicker we understand this, the better off we'll be. We don't control the information anymore. Customers search months for homes, starting their searches through their mobile phones, tablets, laptops. Once they find something they like, they want more details and act quickly to find somebody who will guide them. The example I always give around this, I sold a home, we closed in November. The lady wasn't planning on selling for about 2 years. Late night scrolling session on Zillow, she loves finding old farmhouses and fixing them up. And they wanted to move down by Indianapolis. So, because that's where her kids and grandkids are. So they weren't planning on moving for 2 to 2.5 years. She's scrolling 1, 2 in the morning, finds a house, hits the button on Zillow, got connected that next morning with an agent, video to her, wrote an offer that day. Within 48 hours, she called Landon over at C21, who is her agent for a few years now. Had the house on the market. We were 1 of 6 offers. So she went from 2.5 years to about 96 hours. So the quicker we understand, we do not control the information. People are searching before you even know their customers. So where are you gonna be to come across their path in that? And Mike Hillary brought this up, and it was kind of an aha moment. Because what do we always teach? Leads, listing, leverage. So we always say listings. So obviously it's like you get into campaigns and you see all these ads that you can do about listings. He's like, here's the flaw in promoting for listings. What are sellers first? Or generally buyers first. He's like, so in virtue of promoting for buyers, you're gonna come across listings.
Yeah.
People talk about buying way before they talk about selling. Man, that was just kind of one of those moments, like. Interesting, like just that perception, just flipping that perception a little bit.
I want that coffee, so.
Yeah, no kidding. So- She really wants to. Try.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, I think it's singular hearing.
oh, okay. So,
She really wants to.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
What?
got a little closed captioning.
You know, the picture of what we're saying,
Yeah.
it picked up instead of she really wants a coffee, it said she really wants a gun.
See, AI, I'm telling you,
Right?
I mean, it's.
It's like, does she?
Does she?
The inside Nancy's brain. Does she?
Is that why she's running? So age of the customer, this is not, earth shattering news. For a long time, things were days or months in the making. Then we got to a point where it's minutes. Now we're in the instant, we want instant gratification. If I see a house this morning, I wanna see it tonight. I don't wanna wait 4 days, 5 days. Oh, I got you. That's not a surprise to anybody. So this is why you gotta have the systems built for that instantaneous. If you sign up for Twilio and you do smart plans, as soon as they sign up, they can get a text and an email from you without you doing anything. You go that route, one of the best successes we've been seeing is it's asking them a question. It's not like, hey, thanks for inquiring about blah, blah, blah. Do you have any questions? It's, hey, thanks for inquiring about this house, put the address there inside this house. Are you looking to move right away, 6 months or a year or more kind of question? We're seeing a lot of engagement back because people are like, oh. Now, like out of all these leads you brought in, that person replied, that should be at the top of your list to call because they're interacting. So again, taking some of the stress off your shoulders of like, if these people are coming in at all hours of the day, where some of this can be automated. But people want instant gratification. And we gotta find out in our systems, how are we gonna give it to them? So the value of the customer, so it's gonna be page 28. So this is talking about just one client. In a 20-year window. So you're just talking about first time home buyer, Jennifer. So first home buyer, and I think, that price point might be a little high for us in this market, but not too far off, I don't think anymore. For a first time home buyer. 10 years ago, that'd probably been like 140.
Yes.
And I don't think 250-ish is too far up. So over a 20-year window, getting 3% commission. There's $67,000 in commission. What is this not accounting for though in that 20-year window? Referrals. So this is just talking about them. This isn't talking about their coworkers, other family members. In that 20-year window, if they have kids, now their kids are of home buying age. You made a big enough impression. I had a friend of mine from high school and I was like, really, you're not gonna use me? Her family's used Greg Adams since, and I don't even know how long he's been in the business, but they've used him for decades. So I was like, I get it. Still I'm mad at you, but I get it. So, it's like, that's the value. So when she got to where she is buying houses and selling houses, it was all Greg Adams. So he made that one connection, whatever year they did their first deal. How much money just off this family? Do you think it's made? A lot. Do you guys track the value of your customers, like how many deals they do and things like that? You said you're not, do you do much in the repeat business? I know you're not working on referrals, but got your coffee? There you go. Yeah.
A little more than that.
I don't know what the standard's supposed to be, but I track everything.
Okay, there's no standard. I'm just curious. Some people, I try to break it down and this is the nice thing, like we have with our team, we have a spreadsheet and it breaks it down. Like we can search by their name and see how many deals we've done, things like that. So we've made a pretty intense spreadsheet that will track that. So every so often we'll just be like, how many deals have we done with this particular family? And we can just search by their name, just put a filter on it. We've done, I think the most we've done with one family, because we track if it's a referral and who it's from and all this stuff. It's like 15 deals from one family, between deals and referrals, since 2016.
Wow.
So it's like, man, and inside that spreadsheet, we can track how much money that's represented sales wise and things like that. So it's just good, it's like, that's a client we're definitely gonna keep loving on, right? It's like, cause we know we get a ton of business. So your friend that gives you 12 deals and you give them a bunch of Ray-Bans, Nancy, like, that's somebody like definitely pouring into. Are those buyer guides Aaron has? Those are pretty slick.
Holy smokes.
Okay.
There's buyer, free listing.
Yeah.
So he said he can hook us all up to.
They're really nice.
Yeah. Seller guide, buyer guide, free listing guide.
Yeah, I need to see it.
Yeah, so.
Who made these?
Hoover for his team.
But it's gonna kind of offer keeper printing to have done yourself.
Yeah.
I'm just borrowing them.
So the value of your database. This is on page 30 of your guide. I highly recommend you do this. We won't carve out time right now. But I just did this with 4 new people in coaching. And we worked on the database of their phone. And this was the highest number I've ever had somebody get. The value of their database and commission was over $400,000. So the plan of action from that activity was, we said, work your sphere, all these people on your phone. And we came up how many per week she needs to go, and she's already got her first listing. 3 weeks in.
So how exactly did she work it?
We came up with a script around the different types of people in her suite, in her database. So we kind of took like, all right, I forget all her numbers now, but it's like 1,700 in her phone. That was like, all right, how many of these are just throwaways? It's like a restaurant or whatever. Then it was like, how many people are close friends? Okay, it's probably about this %. How many are former coworkers or current coworkers? How many close family, kind of broke it down, then we went over scripting for each of those. And it ended up being one of her friends was working on a house with another friend, and she got that listing. Yeah, and now they want to sell that one and then go buy the next one that they can flip. So right there might be a handful of deals in the first couple of years of her being licensed, just from that one phone. So this activity, some people they think it's kind of a waste of time, but this is where that 201 club and things like that come from. It's when you have this kind of example, just shows how valuable that database can be if we're really purposeful about who we're putting in there. You know, we could have had her put in all the restaurants and all this stuff. It's like, that's kind of dead space unless you go there all the time and you know a lot of the workers, maybe. Customers have options. How many of us heard the stat, like being the first in the door on a listing appointment matters? Hopefully all of us have, because about 70% of people sign with the first agent that comes in on a listing appointment.
Litter box, or, yeah, I mean, they literally.
So on page 31, 32, you're going to see the different options that people have and what they're looking for. And on the left-hand side, top left, it says under buyer, help finding the right home. Right, nobody takes that part seriously, but how many of us had those buyers that they're looking at everything? Like they say they want this, but then they're sending houses like, it's for sale in that town, is limited inventory, they're just sending you everything. This is where we need to actually help them find the right home. Rocky up in South Bend has the most intense process of this that I've heard of. Like his buyer consultation is about 45 minutes to an hour. And at the end of it, he has a very defined list of what that house has to have. And he's clear with them, if it does not have this, we are not seeing that. And then that script right there gets, well, we really don't have to have that 3-car back. Okay, so that's just, if it has it, great. If not, boom, off the list. So he has this list here, and by the end of that meeting, it's about 4 or 5 items. And he's bold enough with his clients to say, if it does not have these 4 or 5 things, or whatever that list is, we are not seeing it, because you said has to have this. So I'm not wasting all of our time seeing a house that you have no interest in actually buying.
I keep having that happen where like particular buyer wants 2 bathrooms, but she'll keep telling me she wants to see this house. I'm like, it only has 1 bathroom. I want to still see it. You go see it. Well, yeah, it only has 1 bathroom.
Why did you allow them to see it?
Huh?
Why did you allow them to see it?
And now you've seen it in.
I don't know. She thinks maybe she can work in another, build another one in, I'm not sure, but. I don't know, I just feel like,
Be bold enough to ask that question, though, and just be like, you know, you're flip flop, you're the client, and
yeah,
I'll just be bold enough with you, it's like,
yeah,
you know, there's not gonna be room to add a second bathroom in this house, we're looking at the floor
Yeah.
plan, so you said we have to have 2 bathrooms, so. Let's not waste your time to see it, but are you sending her options? Are you finding her options? Are you relying on her to
yeah,
say,
definitely,
okay,
yeah,
so be like, hey, these may be better options for you.
Yeah.
And send her a house.
we need to start working.
Like after once or twice, it's like, okay, like. Said this is what you have to have, we've seen enough that you know, like, this is definitively what we have to have.
Yep.
You know, I don't wanna see you settle just to buy a house for the sake of buying a house.
Yeah.
Now you're spending it to like, you're protecting your time, but you're spending it into
I mean,
like.
there's so often I'm like, they're not gonna like this,
Right. Right.
yeah.
So would you say like, going off like what Rocky does, I mean, I feel like when I talk to buyers, I usually try to narrow it down to like your top 5 things, like you have to have these things. Would you think that that's like a good number or should I? Or-
I don't specify a certain number, but I know if they give me a list of like 12, like
Yeah.
there's no way, like the chance of finding a house in that price point with all
Right.
12. So then I have them narrow it down. Like what's, all right, so what's the have to have and what's the, it'd be nice.
If we wouldn't show that house, we'd know there's only 1 bathroom. I do the same process where my coach does the same way Rocky does it. You should have been like, it's only 1 bathroom, we need 2. Then we get to the house, this is why, you know, you're wasting your time. You know, we know that you need 2 bathrooms, right?
I don't agree. I agree, but I don't agree because like I'm an emotional person, so if I say I need 2 bathrooms, if I go to a property and I walk in and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is it. I might change my mind, I might just need 1 bathroom all of a sudden, you know what I mean? Cause I am not a box checker, I'm an emotional, I know the minute I walk in the door whether this is it for me or not.
I think it's situational, because if you've shown her multiple houses with only 1 bathroom, and every time you show her a house with 1 bathroom, she's like, no, yeah, I need 2 bathrooms.
Well, or it could be something else, you know what I mean, like.
Yeah, but if that's been something that she's
Oh,
been very like
Yeah,
adamant about. And some people, I think when they think like, when people say 2 bathrooms, I always kind of ask the question too, like, okay, well, do you want 2 full bathrooms, or you could like
Yeah.
1 and a half?
Well,
Because
let's
technically-
take it outside just the bathroom, like it could be anything.
Right.
there are a lot of other.
You know what I mean? So it's just like, I get it, but the emotional buyers are the ones that a lot of times in the middle of the transaction want to bail because they're like. After thinking about it some more, I really need that second bathroom. Now I cost you earnest money, I cost you inspection money, maybe appraisal money, you might be out a couple $1,000.
I also feel
But
like,
by not me being bold, now if you force the issue, like it's either you or somebody else, so I'll meet, but. After a couple times of you saying this, you know, I'm just gonna be like, you know, we've now 100% qualified, it's 2 bathrooms.
right,
I'm gonna say nicer than that, but that's gonna be the essence of the message, right?
Right.
And I've had that conversation with so many buyers, more on square footage. Like they're like 1,500 square feet or more, and we've seen a couple right around 15, they're like.
Yeah.
It feels too small, like, all right, let's bump our minimum up to 1,800 square feet. So we should be able to find something in our budget, so we're not gonna see, and I get their offers, and I get their. But it's like, why waste their time, and then I don't want a buyer just to settle, again, going back. A few slides where I'm almost trying to talk my buyers out, I don't want them, part of it's emotional,
Yeah,
but at some point. Like the logical brain has to be the one that makes the decision, so hearing you say you're an emotional buyer, like, that's not a buyer I'm gonna just let settle. Because that's gonna be a house in a couple of years you regret it, or you're spending a ton of money trying to add a second bathroom, or whatever it is.
and this
You
is
may
why
love
you're
it.
my coach.
You know, so, but again, like, that's where, this is emotional.
Mhm.
They're hiring us to be the logical ones.
Yeah, you buy with emotion, just not logic.
Yeah, exactly.
yeah,
Now, investors, it's all just logic, it's, will this,
emotion.
will this make me money?
yeah. I have a
Yes or no?
I have a very rudimentary question. And that is, like, I have like 7 or 8 buyers right now, so I'm like on overload and trying to help these people find houses. So I have them on a search.
Okay.
I'm also asking around, see if people have, you know, what I'm looking for. What are some good ways to streamline, you know, our helping that many people search for?
Well, the safe search is gonna be the most obvious. What's the average, like, what's the low price point for one of the buyers, and what's the highest price point?
225 is low, and then 500 is the high.
I mean, this would be the obvious list, right?
Yeah.
Safe searches. Builders, so you're up, the higher end buyers, a new build might be your best option. Looking for sale by owner, make sure you're looking, because they're looking, because if they're on Zillow looking, they're 150% getting served up for sale by owners. You should be, and again, in those first buyer meetings, you should be explaining, if it exists, I can sell it to you. And then look at your expires.
Much broader way than I've ever thought, even like thinking of this.
Yeah, so look at expires, like, especially this higher price points, you know, over the last year, these have been a little bit harder to sell. Not saying they're not selling, but they're taking more time. They may have ran out of time. And Reeser has the best expired story I've ever heard. He had a 1 point something million buyer, found a $1.2 million expired, went second door he knocked on, got both sides of the deal, 6%. You know what I mean? He's like, all right, this doesn't exist. So if you want to casually wait for a result for your buyer to come in, post on the private page too. It sounds like you're doing that, but say searches, talk to your builders, like based on what they're wanting.
Yeah.
For sale by owners and expires would be where I would start. And then carve out time each day to look at all those things. And expires if you don't, I don't know how you guys get your information, but you can just go door knock the house. Yeah, but I mean, if you, there are services you can pay like $100 for, and they'll give you the
Yeah.
numbers and things like that, so like Mojo Dialer and things like
That's why
that.
the 500 is historic home downtown, if anybody hasn't.
So what about you did postcard mailings to it and you're, again,
Yeah, you know what?
you can sit on the sideline waiting for these things to happen. But then you're going, especially if that price point, I guarantee you're going to,
Yeah,
or do you want to go out and find it, even if it's not for your buyer, you could just got a listing.
Yeah.
So take your buyer needs as like a shopping list, you're going to the grocery. And you're out just searching for that house, you're looking high and low. Cause they're asking coworkers at work, they're asking anybody and everybody. I had a friend, this is in the height of the market, 2021. She was sitting on her front porch in the 07, and somebody just walked up and said, will you sell your house? Like, we want to live in this neighborhood. She's like, well, how much are you willing to pay? And he said a number, and she's like, yep. So buyers can get that desperate, like they're just asking anybody and everybody, like, you got this, especially something in West Central or wherever they want to be, assuming they have price points West Central. There's not many, and they're trying to find somebody that knows somebody that lives in that neighborhood, right?
Yeah.
And if you're sending them options all the time, how many of you heard from buyers where it's like, my agent never did anything, I sent them all the houses, they kind of opened the door. And then they wrote the offer and then they got a big check. Because I had an experience. But if you're like, you find something nobody else knows about, it's coming on the market next week,
Yeah,
got a chance to go see it.
I do, I will
You know,
also
things like
say,
that.
I feel like as agents in this office, we used to share, I would say a large majority of homes that I sold or bought were talked about in the office, and I don't
Mhm.
feel like that happened.
What committee are you in?
I am on the, growth.
Guys, I'm girl.
That could be something you guys do to take on.
Okay, I like that. Okay,
So,
cool.
And I will say they use, I mean, I feel like that's something that should come back to like meetings and stuff.
Oh,
Like,
100%.
Meetings,
bring
like
it up to them.
at the end.
Yeah.
Ben's already got it on his list.
You know,
He's already gonna, set aside time in the team meetings to talk about what our needs are, buying and listing size. We can present in the team meeting. It's definitely.
should have a pinned post on Facebook and stuff, of like on the private page that has that list, because not everybody's at the team meetings.
I mean, that's a good idea.
It should be, but not everybody.
Yeah, I don't know how that would work, but
somebody's got to update it like once a week or something,
Yeah,
Yep.
so.
Hmm.
But again,
Yeah.
take this and this where be bold enough to talk to your clients, be we've seen enough houses, two bathrooms, and secure medical.
yeah,
Or if you see them sending you houses like, man, you want a 2-story. And everything you're sending me is ranch, are we changing what we're looking for?
yeah.
Now you're paying attention to what they're selling. Again, that shows them that you're actually paying attention.
Mhm. Absolutely.
Think about this. So we talk a lot here, like business planning clinic, when we held it in October, we started with our big vision, our big why. Like, what is our goal? Like in 20 years' time, what do we want to accomplish? All right, then what do we gotta do in 5 years, 3 years, 1 year? What do we gotta start with this month and this week kind of concept? Use that kind of example for this. What story do I want my customers to tell about me? Use that as like, hey, when I'm done at the end of this year, I want my customers to say these things about me. Now reverse engineer it all the way back. So what can we start on today? This is how you start building an experience. You're not just winging it. So I was just in Indianapolis last weekend and they had the NFL Combine down there. They had like a whole NFL experience and all this stuff, like that all took planning. They knew exactly what you wanted. They wanted you to see and feel and experience while you were there.
How do you think, and then I know we're probably kind of touching on it all today, but, like would that 101 class be something that would be good to really get some systems in place?
Oh, real estate 101?
Yeah.
No, that's like teaching people like the MLS, showing time, all the apps you kind of need to know how to use it. Because
Okay.
Upstart teaches like once a quarter. And it's like a 7-hour class just on the MLS and they really get nowhere. So it's just like, we're just seeing a lot of the new agents just weren't,
Great, yeah.
they didn't, like, how do I schedule a showing? Like, how do I do multiple showings where it roadmaps my showings for me and stuff like that?
Okay, so is there a good place? How do I figure out how to narrow down these systems?
Hmm.
So I'm not working 24 hours a day.
Talk to your education chair.
That's what I was just gonna say, who's the education chair?
Is that you?
Actually, it's Lauren, it's Lauren and
Okay.
Ben.
No, he's trained. He's-
Lauren,
I'm Ted.
yeah, it's Lauren and Ben.
Okay.
Lauren and Ben,
Okay, I thought it was you. So that'd be a good, because that could be something once a month. It's like a different topic in the system around it. Because we are talking broad concepts today.
I feel like there needs to be.
Now, I
like-
will say on
I
Fridays, he
wanna
does
learn, like, One
playbooks.
system, I wanna learn like, what are all, like, these are all the systems you need, and then I'm like, okay, I'll take this one. Do you see what I'm saying? Yes.
So-
because
They
our
have to
systems are
play
gonna be
for
different.
success.
Yeah, so on Fridays, he teaches all the playbooks.
Yeah,
Ben.
Ben,
So every Friday,
there's, if you go to the website, there's a playbook for success that has every app on there.
but he actually teaches them in person on Fridays.
So the playbook, our system.
There's different playbooks for social media, playbook for text, like all different things.
do you know where?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Every Friday.
Like on Connect, you have KW Connect,
Okay,
so you just type, if you go to your KW Connect, they type it like, it'll pull up every single that we have available. And
those are
there's different topics, yeah, there's different topics, there's like system and organization, it's different.
And I'm glad he's teaching them, because then.
And that has.
Yeah.
You can go to Connect.
And they-
Oh, I heard, but it's nice having a class that's actually like,
I like
come in and kind of brainstorm the ideas
Yeah.
together.
you know about that?
Yeah, Connect does everything. I'm at that every day.
So that was something headed up by Jason Abrams. Like he was, like he felt like, we talked about these things on a big scale, but we never like take it down to like a thing.
Yeah,
So over the last couple of years, he went through and built all these playbooks.
nice.
So he's the one that wrote them, and it's somebody that's been in the field.
I
and
can leave
tons of-
now, I'm good. Yeah, that's what I need.
It's nice.
Everything you need to know is in Connect.
Do you have a playbook?
No.
Well, there's more,
I think you do. Well, they gave us one.
the ALC committee.
It says playbook. I think we do have one. I
You
have
do?
it in my drawer, my desk.
I was gonna call her out with that.
Wait a minute.
How did they not cover that?
It's like a binder, it's like
What
a
is it?
bed
How
binder.
do you-
Did they have breakouts on it? I don't know. I
Oh
wasn't
my
there.
gosh.
Oh, that is
She is
funny.
my girl, like, I get
So
you,
we're gonna just
like.
say she's like,
No, I get you, like, I knew that now.
Oh, that's
See, you're
hysterical.
open.
Well, if it's. I didn't know playbook assistants don't. See,
I playbook, but your systems are inside the playbook. Yeah. Yeah.
So,
I just bought it then, yeah, I didn't know
There you
what it was.
yeah.
Thank you.
Good.
So,
That is fun.
But then inside.
AI, by the way,
There you go.
is AI for real estate agent.
But every Friday, then.
Yeah. Here.
What time?
It says 11 to 12.
So, but that way you're kind of in the room, you kind of brainstorm these ideas. and,
Yeah.
like, Figure out how to implement them in your business.
Yay.
My third day in a row.
So.
Wait for Topeka.
Topeka, you're getting up in her neck of the woods.
No, I said she's coming all the way.
Oh, coming all the way. I thought you were getting a call from Topeka.
No.
Uh-oh. So customer centric, all these things on the left. This is what our clients are expecting from us. These are the attributes. Are you communicating? That's the biggest. one. Are they hearing from you? Do they feel like they're being heard? Do you care? And sometimes being bold enough to say those things to our clients, like you said you wanted this, and you keep going to houses that don't have that, then you're not happy with the house. That's showing care for them, like you're looking out for them. Adding value. You're putting them first.
I think it's about like narrowing down the process even in that, because I felt like there are a lot of buyers that are getting really frustrated because it's taking too long or,
There,
and I
100%.
think it's because it's like.
Limited inventory and, you know,
Yeah.
they're kind of just looking all over. But by and large, our buyers don't have to buy right now. Like if they're getting into the end of the lease or they're getting, you know, kicked out, you know, whatever kind of thing. But
Yeah,
by and large, they got time to take. But I think they're just like, hey, we'll look today, buy tomorrow, and we move in 30 days. Well, it might take a year, might take 6 months, might take 4
Yeah.
months. And that'd be a good thing to discuss in the initial meeting when you're talking about what's the wants and needs of the house. Hey, talk about their timeline. Like, do you have to have like we have to be somewhere by this date? And then I take that conversation a step further, like, all right, let's just say that perfect house doesn't pop up in that time frame. Where are you going to live? Have a backup plan. If you're at an apartment, make friends with the front desk and say, can I go month to month? Because you don't want them to sign a year lease. Because now you did all this work, 4 months go by, they're out of time. Now you gotta wait another year just to start the hamster wheel over.
yeah,
And that's where breaking down the timeline, especially people renting, like when should they start looking? I don't think they need to start looking like 30 or 45 days before their lease is up. They should be looking 4 months before their lease is up. Again, this is where you're adding value to your clients. Knowing your market, especially if you're working open houses, because people may be there and they've been looking in that area for a long time. And they know more about that area than you do. Is that a good look? If you're showing a house in a certain area, if you're hosting an open house in an area you're not familiar with, take a little bit of time, take a half hour and just kind of study what's been pending, what's sold recently, what else is out there. You don't need to know like the whole market, just kind of what's going on in that particular area, because it can be that regionalized and that localized. Know your preferred communication styles of your clients. So we know a lot of people want to text. If that's all they want to do, as much as we want to get them on the phone, we want to meet them how they want to communicate. Then at 1 o'clock today, then again, on the 26th, I think we're doing that value proposition that Gary Keller's leading. But look at your value proposition. You got 10 seconds on an elevator ride up or down. You got 10 seconds to make an impression. Why you?
You teaching us that or whoever comes up with that elevator thing or whatever the other night around the dinner table, I had adult children and one of them wanting me to do a resume for him. I said, I need you to tell me right now, you've got 11 seconds,
Yeah.
go. Why should I hire you? He just went, you know what I mean? Okay, so now we know where we're at with that. Let's start with that, you know what I mean? But the things that we learn here, we're taking to our families, like my kids, like I'm passing this information down to them as well, you know? And they're like, okay, tell me what yours is. And I went, blah, 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 you know what I mean? Like, and they're like, okay, this is it. Like, you've got to know this. Like, you got to be able to tell me in 11 seconds why you're the person for this job. And I learned that.
Look at every advertisement that you see in the marketplace. That's their value proposition.
Yeah.
Look at McDonald's slogan. Look at Coca-Cola slogan. That is their value proposition. If a multi-billion-dollar company needs it, perhaps we need it too. So there's about 1,700 agents in Upstart.
Right.
And then I don't know, when you add in cable and all this stuff, and there's a lot of agents up here. So why you? Most people know 3, 4, 5 agents. So what's gonna make you stand out from the crowd? If we look at number 1, talked about a few slides ago, information's everywhere. Our clients can find out this market information. So if you don't, then you missed the point of part of your job. So if they know more than you, you're not gonna use it. And then how can you guide your client appropriately if you don't know the market? Let's say if you do not have this, a good goal by the end of this weekend would be to have your value proposition. And this breaks it down. So how do you exceed expectations? How do you deliver an exceptional experience? What are your strengths? And if you're on a team, what's the team strengths as well? And then break that down for buyers and sellers. And that should be in every listing presentation, buyer presentation that you have. And don't be afraid to point these things out to a client. So if one of your things is how hard you negotiate for your clients. As you're working through that process with your clients, don't be afraid to point out that I told you you're hiring a negotiator on your side. And I'm here fighting for you, and we just got you by fighting. That's an extra $3,000. Just validates what you told them you had and what they're getting. So
I love some examples.
the value propositions.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anybody have any?
I have one, like the one I use for our team.
Yeah.
Does anybody else have one?
Go ahead.
By hiring us, we're gonna make this the most amazing real estate experience of your life because we have everybody to guide you through each step of the process.
Everybody what?
We have a person to guide you through each step of the process.
I love the word guide.
So we have an ISA, so as leads come in for your listing, we have somebody that's calling those leads right away, so we can farm for as many buyers as possible. We have a person that watches over all the documents to make sure everything's done properly and manages our timeline. That allows you and I to go out, see as many homes and just focus on the search process. So if they ask for explanation, that's where we take it.
Love it.
It's yours.
Okay, so I usually start out with the fact, I like to highlight the points of hard work, kind of being from the country, like I because I'm out in the rural area, so hard work and common sense are two things that I always keep at the top. And depending on how the conversation is, I don't just start out with that, but hard work and common sense. Not afraid of conflict. I always put that I am not afraid of conflict. So if conflict arises during any time, I'm willing to negotiate through that. I always keep them at the top of my list. Once under contract, I usually bring up the fact that I have a seasoned transaction coordinator that takes over the documents and sees that all the way to the finish line. But hard work, common sense negotiator, and conflict resolution, and then the transaction coordinator.
So it looks like when you're like looking at this activity, you're really trying to just come up with one
Hey, you're kind of just making the bullet points of these different things.
and then meld it into one.
specific to buyers, specific to sellers, and take that a step further, specific to a luxury home buyer.
Yeah.
Specific to an investor, depending on what market you're gonna focus. on. And this sums it up pretty good.
Yeah.
Top agents can easily explain what services they will provide anyone who hires them. This is your value proposition. Again, 10 seconds, couple lines. That's all it should be. Then be prepared to explain it further. But it should be that simple.
I currently have two clients that are, one is the CEO of a company and one owns a recruiting firm for CEOs. Talk about nerve wracking. It is like, I'm just this like country girl over here, like, it's making me kind of nervous, you know what I mean? Like, I'm like, okay, did I say that right? How do I talk to this guy? You know what I mean? And this is a huge learning process for me because, I mean, I came from the factory, like, so to address him and talk to him in a very professional way, it's making me nervous. I'm not gonna lie, because I'm not that person. But so far so good, like I'm just talking to him like a person and whatever, but it is making me nervous. Kind of like the Allen County Sheriff,
Right.
when I had him as a client. Like that was nerve wracking too.
And this is where this slide will be perfect. So presenting your value proposition. So why you? And then set your expectations. Now you get to the customer. Listen to your customer needs and concerns and negotiate where you can serve them. Setting that expectation. If they're expecting something from you that's not going to happen, talk about that. Don't make empty promises. Inquire and understand the customer's expectations. And this would include their motivations. This is really important because, again, sometimes throughout the process, we have to go back to those expectations and those motivations to get them back on track. So our clients are very notorious for being all over the map for sometimes throughout the process. So if you have a good understanding of their expectations and a really good expectation of their motivations, you can get them back on track. Then verify that there is congruency between your customers and you. Has anybody ever walked away from a deal because you're just like, I feel like this just not gonna work?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, as well. Sometimes, it should happen very little. But I feel like, man, it's just not gonna be a good fit. Don't be afraid to walk away.
Like in the midst of it, once you were under contract?
This should be in your initial meeting or two, where you're having all these conversations.
Okay.
So by the time you get under contract, this should all be done. Not saying that they may not change throughout the process where you might need to dip out. So we've all probably had buyers where it's like, they seem super serious and then after a while, you're just like,
They keep sending you to one bath houses.
yeah. But don't be afraid. Again, if it happens all the time, maybe we're being a little too black and white. But don't be afraid. Like nothing's worth a commission and where it's gonna cost you reputation and things like this. And then seek customer agreement. Set your mutual expectations. So by the time you leave that, really, hopefully this happens in the first meeting, should happen in the first meeting or two at the latest. At the end of that, you guys have an agreement and have it in writing if you want. Have them sign it at the end of the meeting. This could be in your presentations. So you have a nice presentation like Aaron shared with us, like, and there could be this agreement. And you have some space to write and everybody signs it. Just makes you guys feel connected. Makes them feel good. They know exactly what they're getting from you. And you know exactly what you told the clients to expect from working with you. It should be that laser focused. We talk about this a lot, difference between functionary and fiduciary. Functionary, you're just there to get a paycheck. You're just trying to turn and burn them. Fiduciary, you're really looking out, serving and educating, guiding them. Not just responding to needs, but you're anticipating because you did such a good job from that previous slide of gauging what's going to be important to the client. they're gonna feel like you're reading their mind. Again, you're answering questions, answering concerns before they even realize their concerns. You accept responsibility. I've had deals where I've absolutely screwed up. I've had to go to my clients and be like, hey, it's all on me. Here's what I'm doing to make it right. I'm not trying to push the buck down the road, not trying to blame somebody else. If it's on me, and that includes our vendor partners that we recommend. If it's a lender that screwed up, I'm the one that connected them. I'm falling on that sword. 'Cause I'm the one that said, you need to use this person. That falls back on you. Not only do you complete the task, but you own the result. So again, finding them the perfect house, whatever that happens to be. Our job, I've always said, we are not salespeople, we're consultants. You're delivering information, you're telling the client how it's gonna be. If you're advising and consulting and truly doing that, you're giving them all the options for that situation. All the pros and cons of that situation. And what you'd ultimately recommend, and then allowing them to make the final decision. This way they can never come back to you and be like, well, you didn't tell me this was an option. And the nice thing with this job is very little has to be done immediately. We're kind of out of that multiple offer, you got 2 hours to make a decision market by and large. So we do have time to sit on a decision, think about things, and really advise and consult our clients at a high level. And that's ultimately our job. That way they're picking something that they're comfortable with. And don't just go to meet the expectations, but exceed them. And you want your clients ultimately to feel like they can't do this without you. The clients that called your friends said, thank you so much for putting her in our path. They view you as irreplaceable. They truly look at you as a consultant. You're looking out for their best interests. That's a great fiduciary. That's somebody that set expectations and is out doing things at a high level.
So I have a question.
Yep.
What do you do? And I understand, providing your value proposition, but sometimes you are going to get people that they're gonna go work with someone else that's going to cut their commission or something. What do you do in situations like that?
That's where,
And would you really,
that's where you gotta look at yourself.
yeah,
When are you gonna hold them? When are you gonna fold them?
Yeah.
That's all. So it's all dollars and cents. How badly do you want the listing? No matter what you talk about, no matter what you do, they're like, this person's 4%. I'm only doing 4%. Would love to work with you only if you do 4%. Do they see your value?
yeah.
Then you gotta decide yourself. What's this worth? What's the opportunity here?
Yeah.
Will this be a mechanism I can meet tons of clients? It's a $225,000 ranch on a basement. Great condition. There's gonna be buyers out the wazoo.
Sure.
So you at 4%, you're like, all right, this stinks. I'm only getting 2. But what if I pick up 10 buyers in the next couple of years from this? That's where you gotta look at the full picture.
Yeah.
But think about this you're trying to get agreement. They're setting their expectation of 4%. Then you gotta decide, where are you gonna be?
Yeah, I know some people, do the, what is it, the,
Menu of commission.
menu of commission, but for me, it's hard to, feel like I wanna do 100% no matter what. You guys use that menu?
Hmm,
You
we
do?
do.
I mean, I've never used it, so,
Hmm.
I think that,
But that's, if you really look, you could build it your way, but if you look at the one Aaron always shows,
yeah,
then it's, at 4%, you're out finding your own buyer. At 5%, he's double dipping it. So from his marketing activities, he's getting 5%. So he's making 2 more, you're saving 1.
yeah,
At 6%, it's the standard stuff, 7%. There's pre-inspection, 7.5, I forget what it is, but.
okay, yeah,
So but that's where you gotta ultimately decide what's your line in the sand. What's the ultimate opportunity here? And for you, I'd say make it more about. What's working with this person gonna be like, okay, so they're beating me up about dollars and cents, I get it, they're trying to save, maximize their whatever. Are they gonna be a nightmare to work with?
Usually they are,
It could be, so then you're like, all right, is the money worth the headache?
yeah.
If I bring them an offer $1 over already high price that they're like mandating we're listing here. And they won't listen to logic, and they won't take an offer $1 under that. And that, they think the house is perfect, even though the inspection shows, hey, here's 10 things that have to be fixed. And they won't do that. Is it worth your time? Is it worth your marketing dollars? And only you can make that decision. And if it's purely like, we need 4% because we're kind of in a tight spot. And you're like, okay, these people will be okay to work with, and you're okay with it, you're like, hey, here's a big opportunity here. You do you. But that's where you gotta look at that whole picture. As opposed to just where the commission matters, but you gotta look at that full picture. But if you think about that slide where you're setting those expectations, this is why you gotta give, that starts with you giving your value. Because that'll justify you asking for 6% or 7% or whatever. Where that menu commission is really nice though, is that it's very disarming. I sit down with you and one of your first questions, what do you charge? Well, actually, you get to choose. And then you're confused because I might be the second agent you're meeting with. You're like, oh, you get to choose. Here you go.
So do you have it, do you have your listing of prices, do you have a sheet?
It's in our listing presentation.
I have a question. What, like, at what point do you, okay, 6% is normal or whatever, but then, if it's over 500,000, do you drop it? If it's over 600,000, do you go down 1%? Like, how do you do that?
We don't drop that.
So, it's
No.
$1.5 million listing, you're still gonna charge 6%.
Right.
Okay.
Let them negotiate. Now, under 100,000, I'll by and large always do 7. Because to me, at 3% under 100,000, it's just like,
Or I know some people just put like they don't do percentage, just put like $1,
correct, and you can do that as well.
Under 100?
like 100,000, so people.
So you're going to say it's a,
3,500.
right,
Yeah,
so you got that option as well.
I never go below 75. Yeah. So if it's under 100,000, I'll just change it out.
Okay.
Because remember, when you break it down, so 7,500, 30% goes to market center,
Mhm.
25% or 6% goes to royalty, 25% goes to taxes. Then you gotta pay yourself out of that, then you gotta run your business. It's like all of a sudden, it dwindles down pretty quick.
Is that a conversation that you ever have with
I never have, 'cause,
listings?
I mean, I can think of 2 instances where a commission even was a question in the listing.
Well, I just saw for sale by owner, and he said that, it said, we will pay 1.5% to buyer's agent. $4,000 is plenty for your efforts.
Oh, I think I saw that one too.
Yeah, so I actually, my people wanted to see it, so I messaged him, he got back to me the next day and said, not working with agents, having people contact me directly, and I will not talk to them until they've seen whatever.
Yeah,
So,
that's the kind of stuff I like.
but I'm thinking, well, it's.
But again, is that somebody you wanna work with? That's where you
Well,
gotta decide who's
I
right.
wouldn't anyway, but still, it's just like, when you do talk to people like that, and they're like, you're getting $4,000, it's like, no, I mean, by the time you really.
But
I love that sheet that has all the responsibilities. Like,
create your own, you could have that on the menu. Here's plenty devil's advocate.
Yeah,
So. What's something you bought recently that was expensive? You're like, this is salty. It could be food, it could be a pair of shoes, it could be a car. You might pass how much, you make up.
$275.
Alright, did that retailer keep $275?
No, yeah,
But to you, it's $275 out of your pocket. I'm just playing devil's advocate.
sure,
I'm selling, I've never been in real estate my entire life, I still look at rates.
yeah, they don't.
To me, it's still $4,000 out of my pocket, I don't really
Sure.
get to, what, it's like, that's a you problem.
Yeah,
That's how they
I
look
think
at
they
it, right?
think we
Because,
just stick $4,000 in our pocket.
well, to them, it doesn't matter. To them, it's $4,000 out of my pocket
Yeah.
in years. Now, what happens to it from there?
Yeah.
Just like your purse.
Yeah.
So X amount went to even buy it. X amount went to that employee that rang it out, X amount went to rent, X amount went to electricity. They may have made $70.
Yeah.
So to them, it's, I made $70. To you, I spent this.
Yeah.
That's how the sellers are. So be prepared for that,
Yeah.
I mean, so we may not agree with it because of this, but to them, it's still $4,000 gone.
Yeah.
That's $4,000 they could have kept. That's $4,000 he could have paid his car off of. That's $4,000 he could have put a fence up.
So what do you do when you have friends that are doing for sale by owner staunch, but they want you to help them with everything?
Come up with a percentage and do the bid.
Um,
But here's the thing, I try not to, I don't work with suit, like, 'cause my 3 worst deals, and I think everybody in South, close friends and family can be the biggest pain in the butt.
Yeah.
So I don't necessarily push that hard for like super close friends and family to work with me, because they can jack up a relationship.
Yeah.
Right? So
and
I would
this
offer to do
person sent me
paperwork.
something at midnight, asked me to look at a purchase agreement, she got at midnight. At midnight. It's-
So when that first
You
came,
say, I'm not a lawyer, I can't look at this, I didn't write this. We write up documents, fill in the blank, written by lawyers from the IAR. We are not attorneys, at that point, you need an attorney.
right, and at the beginning, when that first came up, I've been like, I'll do the paperwork on my paperwork for this percentage.
Yeah,
And have a very clear expectations. I'm not negotiating inspections. Appraisal comes in short. I'm doing paperwork, I'm filing the
You can't
paperwork.
do paperwork. You know that as well as I do. In the state of Indiana, we do not have transaction agency. You have to represent one side or the other. You're breaking the law if you're doing that, and people do that, and they do it, and it's illegal. You're technically, you can get sued for that. You have to represent one side or the other. for both.
These authorize it.
You have, legally, you have, in the state of Indiana, you have. Yeah.
So either way, you write it up how you want, but
Yeah.
that, but again, is it worth your time? Is it worth the headache?
sorry. Nope.
So,
I just had one of those where they did physical on mine. I did the buyer,
right,
and I just told them, all I can do is free consultation, but I'm not looking at any documents.
right.
Should have got a lawyer.
Oh,
They just printed them offline.
I have a person that, yeah, I had a buyer that bought a FISBO. They actually ended up paying the difference in the commission. I think the seller offered me like 1.5, and then my buyer paid the remainder. And, but yeah, I mean, I told them from the very beginning, I was like, just so you guys are aware, I'm not doing any of y'all paperwork unless, like, we have a document written up. And like, you guys actually are like listing through me. I was like, other than that, I'm not doing it. You guys have to have an attorney, and they hired me. Cause I was like, I'm not gonna do it. I'm not gonna
Well,
do
and
it.
by and large, it's usually just a waste of time, because you're
Yeah,
not really
I was like,
making
I'm already
much.
doing stuff for my buyers, so have fun.
Right.
All
And
you have to do is check yourself up, and get sued, I'm telling you.
I mean, they.
What do you mean? Get, like,
You will get sued in this industry, that's why documents are so important in writing.
But that's where that FISBO agreement that you're signing and agreeing to.
You are, and say meeting of minds, I know what you're doing,
Yeah.
if you do,
Right.
if your paperwork's on point, you're,
Right.
I get how you do it, why you're doing it, it's just not worth it.
I generally don't, because it's
Yeah.
not, they're not wanting to pay anything, and you know you're gonna get 78 phone calls that you said you didn't wanna get, so.
Yeah.
So, but the truth, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
You're only 1 year in, you're gonna learn so much over the years, but I'm just telling you, there's a lot.
Well, it's, I mean, you've already seen how much this industry's evolved in your 1 year, and you've been in it for about 15, 20?
26.
12, Jesus, 26, yeah. How much it's evolved just in that time frame,
It's, you guys,
you know, it's like,
there was no MLS when I first started.
Right.
Listings came out in a book and it was like this thick for each.
I love one of those books so bad, you have one of them?
Not
I'm
anymore.
trying to get one, right?
I know Greg Paul has, I think every book ever printed still.
Who does?
Yeah, Greg Paul,
he's a Horizon.
Horizon, yeah. But,
It's
yeah,
a Columbia City
So,
brokerage.
listen,
I know.
it's a
Oh,
culture pot.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
The purchase agreement, well, the listing contract was 2 pages, carbon. And the purchase agreement was 4 pages, carbon. So you press really hard, everybody got their copy.
I love
And you
it.
actually had to go to the office to get the book.
You had to, yeah,
Yeah, so you had to go to the office.
yeah.
Let's go back.
Let's
No, the MLS was like the best thing.
Yeah.
The trees appreciate the MLS.
Yeah.
That's a lot of trees.
For real.
You know? But again, showing how much you know versus how much you care, people want to know you care about them.
You cannot know a whole lot, but if they think you care, you keep up.
Well, they'll eventually want to know how much, but to earn the business, you gotta show how much you care. So page 55. We're gonna look at the buyer story here. So this is exactly the situation we've been talking about. Yes, it is.
Cool.
We got the heater going up here.
I feel like it's only at me though.
Yeah, well-
I know, I need to bring a,
I have a-
I need to bring a blanket in too. Yeah. Thank you.
Navigate as needed.
55.
When they're, yeah.
It's on road.
Right here.
Where we hired her, she promised all kinds of things.
Yeah.
Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah.
Wait. Discuss the matter of already.
I'm gonna bring a blanket in. Getting a 1 page off, many of those.
I know, I can't see it. I got 80 feet on. One.
Get there.
That's why I can't take it long.
Well, now, whatever people,
Why?
years as.
My brain went down.
I got an hour. I got an hour to get it, and then I'm done.
Remember,
I'm checked out.
and, yeah, some people.
Do you want us to
So I
discuss?
said, I didn't-
We're going to here, so I just wanted you to read the story here.
Got it, you know, somebody's.
There's a story.
On page 55.
Yeah,
Disappear.
Under promise over there. Under promise over
Can we
there.
go left or right? Top bottom?
Oh my gosh, you know what else we didn't have? Lock boxes when I started.
They have to go to the office, get the keys and stuff.
So, yes, so when you had multiple showings, I had to keep track of, this key goes, back to this place, this key. goes back to this place.
Oh, we got it. Serious?
Can you imagine me on that?
That just gives me anxiety thinking about it.
I was gonna say.
You went to the office and picked up a key,
And then you have to take it back.
you had to take it back. And if you had an offer, there was no emailing, we didn't have that. You had to physically take the
Deliver?
offer, yes. Or you physically meet, there was no
Well,
emailing.
the
it was
option of offline.
You're talking free fax machines? I mean, at least you had fax.
No, our fax machines were the thermal paper. And my desk was right beside a window.
Oh.
I lost a whole fax. It
The sun.
disappeared.
Yeah.
It disappeared.
What?
Thermal paper
Thermal
disappeared.
paper.
It's like receipt paper, like if you
Yeah.
stand next to like a cup of coffee.
Yeah,
In the sun, that would disappear quickly.
it saves on ink.
It's like a hidden offer, it's like a,
Yeah.
from a movie.
A lot of seats are in thermal because they, you don't have to pay for it.
Yeah.
That, right?
Yes.
That's too
Yeah, there
funny.
was no now.
Oh, no, you had to have an actual map in your
And-
car.
Uh-huh.
Good
So
old
that's why
big
when
old
the-
hand in that, yeah.
When the,
Yep.
when the apartments or whatever first came out, I was like, oh, I need that.
Cause I remember Regal's used to have the best map. Regal's Cigar Shop,
Yeah.
always
Oh,
printed
really?
the best Fort Wayne map. Yeah, they made a book one. And I used to get it all the time, yeah, cause back in the, I remember back before we didn't have all this stuff.
Mhm.
Remember still having a pager,
Yes.
you know, and the big cell phone.
It's screwed into the floorboards.
Yeah.
So, so this is the problem we've been talking about all the time. You promise and underdeliver. It just can't happen. But it happens so many, all talked to so many clients that's happened for. Your listing, we've all had the buyers. We've had buyers come to open houses looking for representation. They're like, our agent sold our house, didn't have any contingency plans. I'm like, what if we don't find a house? And they're about to be homeless in a week or two. So they're just like freaked out, scrambling. And their agent doesn't seem to care. They're like, I got a check coming in. Where you're going's your problem. It's like, so we're scrambling to try to make the best and we're trying to guide them, even though, just here's what we can do. So we gotta be careful what we promise, because again, these are people's lives that we're affecting. So page 57, this talks about the expectations you want to, so this will be something to think about as you're building your value proposition. and working on the experience that we're gonna get into here in the next chapter. So this one is all about how we're serving this up to our clients, hence the name. So the truth, people conduct business with people they trust. That's simple. If it's the biggest purchase of your life, biggest sale of your life, are you going to just trust it to anybody? And I hope the answer is no. So our first goal, especially with that value proposition, is you're building that trust. My clients will only work with me, only I can deliver quality of service. The truth, though, your clients aren't loyal to you, they're loyal to the standards you represent. Is that true? So I want to pause here and talk through, so kind of recapping where we've been, what we've been talking about. So what experiences do you want to potentially implement? Like, what part of your business do you want to create these experiences for? Is it the showing? Is it the under contract? Is it all the above? Is it even how you just present stuff?
I think I'm gonna focus more on buyers.
Okay.
Because I have not used buyer agreements, so I need to figure out how to do that. And then the whole, like, I mean, my mindset is so like seller pays the buyer's commission. So like implementing, you know, that if they're not offering, that's just something that mindset hurdle I need to get over.
Okay. So anybody else before I chime in on that? Okay. So on that, if you're going, okay.
I was just gonna say, for me, I feel like listing presentation is,
Okay.
I really need to work on.
Okay, where do you think it's falling short? Or do you have one? Let's start with that question. Do you currently have one?
So, actually not anymore because it's old.
Okay.
It's so old, it's like irrelevant, really.
Okay.
I have one when I was first, transferred.
Oh, okay, yeah,
So, that was 4 years ago.
yeah.
So, yeah.
And I'm curious, do you do yours digitally or do you have like?
Ours are printed out, but they're able to be presented digitally too, though.
Okay,
So I always tell people, like, be prepared to do presentations, you know, in person, on Zoom. And especially on buyers, you might meet for the first time at a house. Be prepared to do that buyer consultation on the fly, because they may not be willing to wait a day or two to meet with you. They need to go see this house. They don't want to miss out. You need to be prepared to have that consultation on the fly like that.
one of the breakouts that I went to at family reunion, this particular agent does all her buyer presentations on Zoom.
Mhm.
Which I wouldn't even know how. I actually have some buyers who are coming in town tomorrow. And when I talked to them on the phone, they said, are we going to be on Zoom? Which I freaked out because I have no idea how to, I can get on a Zoom call, but I don't know how to set up.
Well, that should be something, because face to face is where it's at.
Yeah,
Phone calls are great. If you can get to them face to face, learn how to, like, just find people in your sphere and just be like, let me test this out and get really proficient at it. Cause seeing people face to face, it builds trust.
and then she's like
Yeah.
screen sharing,
Yeah.
and like, oh, there's another level.
Right, so, again, like, it's not hard to figure out, but do a few practice runs. Learn how to screen share, make sure your settings are right. There's tons of YouTube videos that'll guide you through, like, how to set it up.
Already.
But it could simplify your,
Are you doing
simplify
that,
things.
Marlon?
What?
Zooming?
Oh, have I? No.
But if it sounds
Maybe we
like
can all figure it out. We'll have a little
So-
class.
the,
I think I would probably like, I like the video, messages, like what you were talking about, like, just like, hi, this is Marlene, I'm gonna be your agent, blah, 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 send it to them, you know?
but a Zoom would be better. That's like
Yeah.
worst case scenario, you send that out
Yeah.
because you're not able to connect with them. Connecting with them face to face is where it's at. This is why, you know, when we do Zoom, so Leia's on Zoom, she's got her camera on, like, you're not talking to a black screen. You know, people with cameras off, like, that's better than her just listening idly, like driving in her car. Like, she's seeing what we're talking about, things like this.
Yeah.
That's why
We
the,
had these during COVID.
Yeah.
During COVID, you just learned how to, no. you
I
were-
did
you were
listing
during
prep.
COVID, Weren't you?
Yeah,
I did,
Were you one of those that packed up, just didn't do anything?
no, I was It was
I did
great.
listing presentations, had my clients.
Yeah, I
do Zoom,
listed
like,
houses from Zoom,
Yeah.
yeah.
I just met people, I didn't feel like, it didn't change my business one bit, like, nobody was wearing masks, it was.
Yeah.
Good.
there you go.
Good, man. Worst case, you could do FaceTime, right?
Yeah, I mean,
And I
it
did-
doesn't have
I
to be
did
Zoom, but
some,
like face to
you know, I
face is
did some
good.
video,
You know how FaceTime, right?
oh, yeah, I did,
Zoom, same thing, just different platform.
yeah, but like the screen sharing and stuff like
You just hit
that.
screen share, you just go down to the bottom, yeah, I mean, it really is read,
So you
left to
could,
right, top to bottom, everything's right there.
The best way to do it's on your computer though. If you're gonna do it on your computer, because if you're screen sharing, it's just easier to see
you
everything.
screen share on FaceTime,
Yeah, you can screen share whatever's on your
but you
screen,
can't,
you can select just tabs too, if you want to.
but you can only FaceTime other iPhone users.
Correct. That's right, I
You
think
can
Zoom.
FaceTime anybody on FaceTime, on Facebook.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
through Messenger.
Go to the Facebook.
You're not saying you still do the Facebook app.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to simplify,
Right,
because
just a lot, you're gonna have a class.
just use Zoom, like, because then everybody can,
Oh,
it's
okay.
supposed to be like this, FaceTime this.
Oh,
If it's overwhelming, it is all pretty simple, but pick
Okay.
one, master that, then if you
Are
decide.
you
to
referring to something like Apple FaceTime or something? See, I don't do that. I'm talking about Facebook FaceTime, you just.
Right, but I'm talking about FaCetime on Apple, only can
Like,
talk to
they
other
may not
Apple.
have Facebook, some older.
That's where it's like
older
Zoom,
ones.
you can control, you can, yeah.
Okay,
just
yeah, got it.
Worry about, just pick one platform,
Yeah, I see why you wanna take it to Zoom, okay.
yeah,
okay.
so,
Okay.
but. If we can meet face to face, virtually or in person, just so much better.
Yeah.
You control just so much more, on the phone's better, you can't talk to them, the video message is great.
Yeah.
Cause they're seeing your face, they trust you, they're hearing from you. Reading a text could be so misconstrued in tone and
Yeah.
where their mind's at, they read it in a whole different tone than you meant it. Remember, they're not loyal to you, and that's just a chance to meet, build that trust. And then with the listing presentation, there's some great ones inside of designs, and I know some people have gone on websites like Fiverr.com and then Etsy and just had somebody design it for them. So if that's not your cup of tea, find somebody who'll design it for you.
I didn't mind the designs, I only took my.
Oh, it doesn't take long,
Oh,
but
I
remember,
hate
designs.
yeah, so there's like 60 pages in the ones in designs, and
I
that's where it's
cut it
like,
down,
yeah,
yeah, 20.
right? But that's where it's like, remember the ones, they're made for agents of different productivity levels and things like that. So,
Design, you're saying design, you did it.
It's in command. It's one of your.
but it's like 50 or 60 pages,
Right.
but it's that way because it's for agents of different productivity levels and all this,
So
but you
take out
can,
pictures.
correct.
I think I think that these, Aaron did his through command. Really?
Yeah, he did that design, that's design, all the stuff's there, you'll
Yeah.
just read, it's easy, it really is. That's the biggest problem, people don't see on computers, there's always directions everywhere. You just gotta scroll over it, it'll usually tell you what it is.
Yeah, well, here's me, I'm like, if I can't just, did you do it? I'm like, I gotta go read something, I'm like, okay. Right.
When I get, like, the problem I have when I'm designing these things, I get too wordy, so that's where I always have somebody go through and like pare it down.
Yeah.
Like, here's what I wanted to say, and you just, you do your thing, yeah. So that's where it's like, sometimes it's better just to hire it out if that's not your cup of tea, and I'm not great at like graphic design, like. I don't want it laid out like this, like, I'd rather somebody else just worry about it, like, I know if I like it when I look at it,
Right.
but I don't necessarily know how to go in there and make it.
You use Fiverr, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
So, again, setting these standards in these presentations, buyer or seller. But then enforce them, because if you're not getting what you need from your clients. Express that, but you set that expectation in that initial meeting. It's holding them accountable, just like they're gonna hold you accountable. They're not getting pre-approved, or we're gonna keep showing them houses. That should be an expectation with every buyer, if you're gonna specialize in buyers, maybe meet them for the first time at a house. Just so you get that face-to-face time, but then after that, like, if they're not pre-approved, how serious are they? So you're setting that state,
It's not buyers.
I thought you just said you did.
No, I need to because I'm getting so many buyers.
Right,
that I-
but
Yeah,
yeah, so as you're working with more and more
Sure.
buyers, like, if they
Yeah.
call you out of the blue, you've never met them, don't be afraid to go to a house or two. you make your impression, you're gonna work together, but then you're setting that expectation. And again, it's about what's in it for them. I'd hate for you to find the perfect house. And then miss out on that opportunity because you weren't prepared. This is what, pre-approval is good for 90 days.
I don't know if you've been on Facebook or seen it, but some agents are starting to talk about. They won't let you show the listing unless you set up a pre-approval first.
And that's always been the case over 300. I mean, that's fine.
But then they say that you're discriminating if you're not asking for it for everybody. Anyway, it might be coming because there are some people that are,
That thing's gotten out of hand. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I knew it was gonna get out of
yeah,
hand. You've seen the top 300 one,
yeah.
I've always told people that, though, especially when it's getting up there higher, especially when they're occupied. That's where you gotta be smart enough to know whether it's vacant. Like I had an issue, I had a seller go off on me for having open houses on a vacant. His house was vacant and we told him he was gonna show and he gave us permission, that he's yelling at me that he never authorized the open houses. So I'm like, you authorize showings, it's a vacant home. What are you, like, seriously? Yeah.
But just having those expectations and don't be afraid to hold your client accountable. And again, this is where it's a two-way experience, right? Like, if you're not getting what you need from them, you might just be spinning your tires. Maybe getting nowhere.
Yeah,
Focus on the ones that are gonna be the highly producing ones. They're listening, they truly want our help. And then the rest, just be honest with them. Hey, until you do this, we're kind of at a stopping point. Leverage technology. Again, we talked about smart plans and things like that built into Command. And Kelly doesn't exist anymore.
That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah. So have them utilize smart plans, let that talk to people automatically for you. Inside the consumer app, there's buyer and seller guides built into that you can customize. So in these initial meetings, don't be afraid to share your consumer app directly with your clients so that they can download it, save their saved searches, show them how it works, teach them these things. Because then they're creating those saved searches. So when you're doing that buyer consultation. And then what we're taking away from them, hopefully, is they're not on Zillow getting, teed up to another agent that's paying for leads. And leveraging people. So even if you're not on a team, you have a team here at the office, people helping you. You got access to Harmony, things like that for transactions. And then your vendors, inspectors, lenders, contractors.
how do your buyers look for homes other than what you send them?
How do they,
I
like,
mean, do you
what-
instruct them or do they just kind of all do what they want?
I mean, we instruct them, but they're still gonna get out there and look, but we want
Yeah.
them to see results from us all the time.
Yeah,
But we set them up on the MLS and have
Yeah.
them send it to them through the MLS. Just because you can be more detailed through the MLS than you can in Command on the saved searches. So,
I have another question. If you're gonna send somebody a home. Like sometimes I'll admit, I'll look on realtor.com and just put in like newest listings so that I can see what's popping up. Instead of pulling out my computer, but then I get on my laptop, log in to then send it, so it goes through the MLS. Is there a faster way? Like if you're on your phone to send them up?
I use homes.com.
I use our app.
I use our app, yeah, I just go to command and send the app, because it's so easy.
So
Right from the command app, I can share my app.
I don't even do the share my app, I just send them. And they,
through what?
our KWU, like
When I
my,
just send the link, I just send the app.
So it depends how you have it set up. So,
So like homes.com,
because they're
I
not
like-
selling the buyers to other people. So that's why, like,
Yeah,
if
I
you
like-
send them a Zillow link, they may get a premier agent and then,
Yeah.
who knows? But if you have your website set up where it's unlimited views, that's good. Or you, again, in your initial consultations, you want them to sign up. So our KW sites are set up at 2 views, you have to sign up. So if they're not signed up, I don't want them to feel like they can't see the house. So after I send them 2 houses, they won't be able to see anymore.
So homes.com, they don't have to sign up? Correct, okay.
And they won't be fed to another agent.
But doesn't homes.com list who the listing agent is?
They do, I mean, all the sites do.
yes,
Yeah, right, okay, yeah. It's
That's
just-
why you wanna keep them on your site.
right?
That's the ideal goal.
So, right, so that's where in those initial meetings, going back here, sharing your consumer app with them, whether it's a listing, because those people have to go buy somewhere. Or a buyer, share your consumer app, and then they have their safe searches, they created their login while they're sitting there with you. And then if you send it through the website and things like that, they already know how to log in.
So when you say consumer app, you mean the KW app?
That's the one with the white, the white logo.
And then you see what people are looking at too, like I get 10 to 12 homes and my people are looking at, so here's your time to call people, because you're seeing what they're going Zillow or Homes, are you
You don't
seeing
see-
what they're looking at?
So if you were a client of mine, we sat down by our consultation, I shared my consumer app, how'd you create your login, showed you how to create your safe search, how to use the app. It's 5 minutes worth of time, because it's just like all the other. Now you log in, you start looking, I'll go to your contact card.
Yep.
Look at your timeline, so, hey, 123 Main Street, 456, and I can click, go view the house, think, hey, it looks like you looked at this house a few times. Yeah, would you like to set up your tour?
Does that sync up to the, Paragon MLS, their favorites there? 'Cause,
Mhm.
like, my people are putting their favorites there.
Yeah,
Okay.
so.
I send them both, yeah, I see what you're saying, I do Collab Center and send my, because the Collab Center is not very good to search from, but the app is.
Yeah, it's just send them results, the MLS is good because you can get more defined, especially if they wanna be on a certain lake. Or they got certain requirements, cause the command save search is pretty basic right now. It is a big request, like if you look into post an idea, I mean, that's one of the top 5 all the time, is like, this needs to be deeper.
You can't go much past bedrooms, and bathrooms.
No, square footage, yeah.
Yeah.
So very basic, so it's like. When we switched to command on visibility group, we're back and forth on like, how do we wanna do, like, we don't wanna send some people here, set some people up over here, so we just made the decision for right now to use the MLS.
Mhm.
And then it sends it to the agent, and then it sends it to the client.
Yeah.
All right, section 4. This is where most people fail. The first 3 is all pretty self-explanatory. Let's set the expectations with our clients. Let's have an open line of communication. Let's get them going. These next 2 are where most people fall off. Check in frequently with the customer. Ask for feedback. Track your score, make improvements. By and large, the most people do on this that I see, they ask for reviews and testimonials. They don't check in with the client frequently. They're just kind of passively waiting for them to send them a house. We're not taking an honest assessment. How did we feel like this whole process went? Like, what did we do really well? Where did we fall short? And that goes back to the question I asked, like, if we miss out on a listing, do we ask, what could we have done better? What made you feel like going with this other person was the best decision? This is how we learn and get better, and we can really track that score. And this all comes down to this, the customer's point of view is the only one that counts, whether you agree with it or not. This is what spurs business. Now, there's gonna be those outliers of like there's gonna be a client you can just never make happy. That would be an outlier, but by and large, this is very true. Ask for feedback. People, reviews matter. Like, if you go on Amazon and buy something without looking at what the star rating is, does anybody search for 2 stars or more? Everybody's looking for 5-star, maybe 4.5 stars. And then in our business, most people want somebody that knows the area. They feel like they're a local presence in that area. So how are you gonna show them that? How are you gonna become that local expert? 89% of customers' testimonials are powerful. That's others speaking well of you. Of course, we're going to say we're the best, we're this, we're that. But other people saying that goes way further than us saying this. But if we're not doing these things, checking in frequently, we can't correct the mode. We get to that review phase, we weren't checking with our client, hey, we may have gotten to the finish line. But what was their experience throughout the path? Are we asking that? That's part of a great experience, because now we're able to deviate if they feel like they're not getting X, Y, Z from us. We get under contract and we send out the next steps, like, hey, schedule your inspection, appraisal, and we'll get everything to your lender, and the only time they hear from you is to work on that inspection, and then, hey, closing dates tomorrow. It's not a great experience. Should be checking in, like, hey, how are things going? Any questions I can answer? So you and I talked about like those client updates through command, through the opportunities. Those can be a great way that they're hearing from you. Again, it doesn't have to be a pick up the phone kind of thing. It should be some of that. Well, let command do some of that communicating for you. Hey, here's what's been done recently. Here's what's coming next. Then conducting surveys, asking for testimonials, super powerful. I wish there was one system that would, like, you could ask for reviews and it'd send it to Realtor and Zillow and Google and all the things, but nobody wants to play nice with each other. So with that being said, though, you gotta pick, and I know some agents, they like, do a revolving door. I do a deal with you, I'm sending you a Zillow link. I do a deal with Frank, and want to send a Realtor. You Google my business. That way it's kind of filtering throughout. You know, like I said, we ask for 3. And we just kind of rotate the list of 3 every so often, because we're like, they're probably only gonna do the first one. So that we change which one's up first. Here and there, just kind of spread the reviews out. Rarely will we see somebody actually go through all 3. And then we thought about asking why we're all sitting at the closing table. Then it feels a little like, they feel like they can't be honest. If I could see the merit, but if I was like sitting right behind, next to you, like, hey, leave me some reviews, and I'm like, are you gonna be honest? Like, it still just felt kind of weird to ask that question, you know, while you're sitting there, but we need to ask it.
I know I've said sometimes I've done it too, with like, I might not give them a gift, like at the closing table, but I'll take them like a gift. Like maybe like a week after they've been moved in, and then like deliver the gift with like a little card, like write something about the review of the card, but then I'll kind of do a follow-up, like while I'm there, I'm like, hey, by the way, I'm gonna send you a text with like a link to leave me a review.
Yeah.
Because they're kind of like not fully moved in, but they're at least past the transition of like packing boxes into a truck and then moving from the truck to the.
Yeah,
It's a little
right.
less-
It's a little less chaotic, a little bit more settled into a new routine. Yep. Do you do home anniversaries?
Mhm.
Okay.
Send a
Birthdays?
card. Birthdays, I'm working on getting more birthdays in there, but like the ones I do have, I usually
Gotcha.
send like a text, or I might send a little something. I do, something that I use called send out,
Send out cards?
that. And then I just go in, I make the card myself, and then I can pick what day I want to get there, and then you can add a little like treat with it.
100%.
And it costs,
Very good.
Cards.
Send out cards?
send out cards,
Oh, I do.
and they're literally like $3,
Yeah, they're not
and it
bad.
does it for me.
I do AM cards as well.
Yeah.
They're really good.
But then I can add a treat, like sometimes they'll have like cookies, so I can add a couple cookies, it's like a birthday,
Mhm.
but it just sends it for me. I can put the date in.
There was one that I was gonna use, and they went out of business because they're just so expensive. It's called, and there may be others, but there's one called bond.com, BOND.com.
Yeah.
But they had a machine that had a pen, you uploaded handwriting samples. And it actually had a ballpoint pen,
What?
literally write the card in your handwriting, including your signature, and send it out. It was like $7 or almost $8 a card. I was like, cause I just like that. It's like, I just can't. I was like, man, it could.
That's cool.
But obviously, nobody else thought there was value because they're out of business. So, but again, it was like, imagine getting that. It's like a nice handwritten card goes out automatically, the treats, all this kind of stuff. And
Every
then-
handwritten card I've sent, I always get a text message from people saying like, thank you for the note, like the card.
Yeah, it
Because a
just
lot of people
feels
like
genuine.
don't get like handwritten cards.
So do you handwrite it, or
There's times like I'll do, like, I just,
is the company you
the
use?
send out card isn't handwritten, it's just like a typed up card. I do the message myself, like I.
Yeah,
put it in there. But I still also take time to like do
Yeah.
handwritten cards like
Yeah.
here and there, just
Well,
like a.
Because I use the AM cards too, which I think is awesome, and my husband's like, wow, you know, I don't think it's good because it's still it's not writing it. I'm like, well, it's better than not doing it.
Exactly,
Right.
that's how I
I mean,
view
I
it.
mean, I've had great positive feedback from them, so.
I mean, yeah, I mean, the lady that helped us when we first moved here, I mean, she sends us cards still and like calendars and everything. I don't, none of hers are handwritten. I mean, I don't mind, like,
I mean,
it's still nice to
it's
get
still coming,
something.
what you
right?
write is still coming
Yeah,
from you.
yeah.
If you had the right system where you like,
Yeah.
once a week, every Monday, I'm gonna take 10 minutes, any anniversaries I have this week,
Mhm.
write it out. Again, it comes down to a system. I just wanted it off my plate, cause I tried it so many different times to do it and it always just never worked. It worked for like a week or two.
Yeah.
So I agree, it's better than nothing, you know?
Yeah.
So let me ask this, how many times post-closing do you ask for referrals? So we do the anniversary cards a week after they move in, we stop by with the thing and.
Like for like, to like renew the reviews or just like asking for reviews
No,
after closing?
referrals, I'm sorry.
Oh, referrals, oh, I probably don't, well, I mean, part of my reviews, when I write the note, I include that in like my note, like. If you know anyone else that could benefit from the safe service I provided to you, I would love to be a referral resource. I mean, I always try to ask for them,
Right.
and usually at some point.
I was just curious. I
Yeah,
like just being bold enough to ask like, hey, like on the phone, like, hey, anybody at the top of your mind that think of that could help.
mhm. I mean, I like, the
Those
lady, the couple that will have. Closing on their house, the sale of their house and their buying house the same day, so the 15th, and she's already been like, I'm referring you to everyone. She's like, I live like you and then Alyssa at Geneva, she's
Yeah.
like, Linder, I'm referring you to her, and you, I'm getting all the referrals, so.
So who in here listens to James Shaw's pivot call? Anybody? Yeah. So when did we go? October? The ALC? September, October. So he led a thing in Chicago, it was like two of us, Aaron, Marvin, Mal, Ben. Oh yeah, 'cause that was his first thing.
Lee,
Yeah.
Ben.
So there's like 6 or 7 of us. So James gets to towards the end of the session, he comes up with a plan. It was like 76 touches to talk to your client a year. I was like, man, it's like that. I was like, probably, it's
That's
like, I'd unsubscribe from me if I heard from me 76.
Yeah.
But I'm like, monthly's not bad, quarterly is a good amount. But have a plan, like, you can think of monthly newsletters, there's 12, anniversary, 13, assumingly a couple birthdays, 14, 15. Asking for a referral, 16, a holiday card, 17, you know, it's like. There's like once a month and then a little bit more. Well, he was like 70, that was just like.
I thought it
Jesus,
went
man.
over 100, Brian.
What, did it get that high?
I
I
thought
may
it was
stop
100
listening at
something.
70 something. I'm like, this is just
No,
not absurd.
Okay, I gotta find out now.
But either way, it was like,
Day.
to me, that's way too much.
Yeah.
But I'm just like, find that plan of action though, where again, like a newsletter, like I just automate it through Peak Digital Design. $40 a month, they type it up, they send it to me to proof. Good, off it goes.
Do you have to send them stuff to like do it, like I?
Initially, I just told them like, hey, here's a link to my blog, grab the newest article. So I have a blog through Homekeeper.
Mhm.
Now, like, here's like my listings for the month when they send me, so then they'll put that in there.
Mhm.
And then I give them the general sentiment and then I do a recipe of the month,
Is
So I
this
just sent them
emailed or in the mail?
email. So it goes out to about 120 people. I was like, $40 a month. Who knows, you know, about half the people open it, so it's like a pretty good open rate.
Real good. Oh,
Yeah, so,
like fabulous.
but it's people that know me. I'm not just sending it out to just random, like, these are all past clients.
6 to 10.
Yeah, so, but I feel like, oh, that's pretty good. People are getting something from it, you know, and it's just keeping me top of mind, so.
How much is that?
$40 a month. You can do a longer one. It's by the number of sections in the newsletter. It goes up to like, I think $80. I was like, 4 sections is enough. Nobody's scrolling and scrolling and
Why
scrolling.
would
It's like,
you use command instead? I don't use command.
I don't wanna think about it. Like, cause in command, you gotta go in there and design it, type it up. $40 just sits off my
So some
plate.
people do it.
The setting up takes a little bit of time. It's called Elite something now. I'll send you the link.
I think they did mine on this
Yeah.
presentation.
Right. But make improvements, again, why we're asking for this feedback, why we're checking in frequently. It's gotta be part of our system because we need to improve that experience and then make notes of what went right, great, but more importantly, what went wrong? So how can we improve that? And what about things that went right, can we make them even better? And we're not talking about, once we're up and running with this, we're not talking major adjustments, we're just talking small tweaks. So don't let this part scare you. This is like, oh, maybe I need to put in there, call once a week because they feel like they didn't hear from me enough. I heard it from a second client, okay, I definitely need to add this in there. So we're just adding in a check-in once a week. Responding immediately. Our clients call us, we can't be too busy. This is where you gotta be honest with yourself. How many clients can you handle alone? Somewhere 30 to 36 deals is kind of where you hear the averages. Like if you're a full-time agent, at about 30 to 36, that's probably when you need to start thinking about it happening. Because you're not able to respond immediately, stuff starts falling by the wayside. Then listening, ask open-ended questions. So in these consultation appointments, ask good open-ended questions. Stay away from yes, no. Validate their feelings. So if they're feeling a certain way about it, like try to understand. And don't just sit there and apologize. What are we gonna do to fix it? So something goes sideways. We screwed something up. How can we fix that? And then commit to that solution, make sure it gets done. And we've already screwed up once along the way. What can we do to make sure it doesn't happen more? And if you can, deliver it before the promised time. So if we're checking in frequently, most of this shouldn't even come to play. We're responding, we're listening, but validating onwards, if we're checking in frequently enough, we can head off issues before they're issues. Then we're going to do this, and then we're going to kind of jot down some ideas. So sustaining. Keep customers informed. When you look at your business, is there a system that you have in place right now that would address any concerns before their concerns? Most people, the answer would be no. But that's
Playbook.
100%. It should be. It should be, because again, our clients are looking at us
Yeah.
to guide them through the process. If they're always bringing stuff up to us and then we're reacting, go back to section 2. They feel like they're driving the train. They should feel like they're on the ride with us and we're the ones driving. Think about these companies. Did you know there's like a high-end Starbucks in Chicago? It's like even more expensive. Like it's like a sit-down bar looking thing. There's one in New York too. I was like, so they've taken even like a pretty good experience and like even taken it to a next level. I've never stayed at a Ritz-Carlton, but I'm assuming the service is pretty good. Has anybody ever stayed at one?
I've seen that.
Yeah, those are nice.
Starbucks in New
Yeah.
York,
Right,
and it was really cool.
Yeah.
But the lines were so
Yeah.
long, I said, yeah, I'm not,
yeah,
well, I'll be here for hours before
Right.
I get anything, so.
right. So big benefits, page 116.
They're more expensive.
No kidding.
Yeah, it's already expensive.
It's kind of what I was thinking,
Think about the person that got them 30 cents.
right? Do you know why they write your name on the cup?
The joke that.
It's from when they first opened, back in, I think it was in the 80s, they opened. It's the personal touch, like, it gives you this weird feeling of like, they know her.
Your name's on the cup.
So it cost them 30 cents. Well, why do you think they probably sell everything for way over? And people still come. You go to Marathon, get a pretty decent cup of coffee. You go to McDonald's for $1, get a pretty decent cup of coffee. Well, but they give you this experience. It's a nice cup with your name on it and thing, and They greet you as soon as they walk in. It's always clean. Like I've never been into a dirty Starbucks. They probably exist, but anyone I've ever been in any town,
They pay their employees good too. They have good benefits, they get benefits, all their employees have healthcare.
I thought about getting a job there.
think about Costco, why people talk about why Costco's so good, where you get holidays off. They paid for that industry super top. We joined this one here in Fort Wayne not long after they opened. There's still people there. I see at the customer service desk that are there when we first joined.
Yeah.
And they're still there, but they pay them well, they treat them well, they don't work ridiculous hours, they get holidays off. Look at Chick-fil-A, they pay really well and they get Sundays off for time with family.
It's such a good way to look at it, and I think, like, being a real estate agent, there are so many different real estate
Mhm.
agents that do different levels of service. And I think that I've tried to elevate my service, but I'm doing it myself without systems.
Right.
Which is exhausting,
Right.
so.
So think about it this way, like, let's say creating leverage, and I'm going to use big numbers, I'm not saying to do this, but.
Yeah.
Let's say by creating leverage, you got one additional deal this year. It costs you $2,000 a year to have this additional leverage, but your average commission, let's say 6,500. So every investment in your business, we look at a 3-to-1 return, right? So that meant that. That's where you need to track what's working and what don't you want to do? You can't do everything well. So is it better to do the few things you do really well and do those? And then leverage out the rest because they'll be done really well.
100%.
You know, and then why I brought up the whole Starbucks example. And when Frankie said it cost them 30 cents, I'm paying $6. Something about that experience makes you feel, and it's something so small, like keeping a place clean, like, okay, that should be a no-brainer for a food and drink establishment. Putting your name on a paper cup gives you this feeling. So these small little things that we can create, what about the name, instead of just a generic listing presentation, it's their name and a picture of their house. Not a picture of a house from California that's way nicer than the house they're seeing. That just says listing presentation. It's a picture of their house. It's got their name on it. Just feels like I'm important. They took time. It took you 4 seconds. You had the presentation done. You just swapped out a photo and typed up a name.
That's this idea.
How simple is that? And it just makes them feel warm. Gives them that warm, fuzzy feeling.
I always put their name on too, like listing presentation or.
Yeah.
That's a good idea too.
Customly or customized for, custom built for, you know.
I used to
Well-
print it, bind it in there.
Yeah.
But I
Still
really don't
can.
feel like it looked, I mean, that pretty.
No, they made ours all on Canva, I think.
But it did have their stuff, which is.
Yeah.
But then I just print it off and, I mean, I bind it, like, yeah, but he made it, so now we just have like.
I got one at 4 o'clock right
Yeah,
here.
there you go.
Made it
So-
ready to go, and I just print it, you know, edit it, like.
What about you get folders with all your logos and your info?
Yeah.
One thing.
That's what I did.
Bingo.
This is my listing for 4 o'clock.
And
Yeah.
here's the thing about printing folders. So like if you've ever worked events and you print t-shirts, you flip the shirts over, it costs more. When you print folders, they print them on one side, like they're not folded up yet. So they don't charge you to print your stuff all over. So your photo, your number, and look how great that looks.
Yeah, really good.
JW signs, they'll,
Really?
yeah,
You do folders?
yeah, Emily, I think her name's Emily.
Yeah, she's great.
Yeah.
She does.
Awesome.
So what, and you could take that a step further, you know, you could have a spot to write their name on. So you could have a little spot. You know, if you wanted to. So again, it's, but just showing up with that or showing up with what Aaron printed off, that just feels high quality. Feels like, oh, I'm important. Next person comes in, just a staple thing, they pull it out of their bag, it's all crumpled up in the corners. They slide that across and they see that. You leave that. They're gonna feel amazing.
That's great.
It's these little tweaks, again, we're not talking about redefining and recreating a whole industry. It's these little things that will separate you out from the crowd. I'll say this, just showing that you care will separate you out from about 50% of the agents in the market. then
Yeah,
these,
your listing presentation, like commission, I barely ever even have to talk about
Yeah.
it. I could put 20% down. I've done 10 and 15. This is just about how you talk to them and if you follow the listing presentation. And, you know, they'll be sold.
How
exactly.
are we supposed to have the new conversation though? Aren't we supposed to make sure we?
Well,
Nothing's
nothing's
changed.
changed.
They're all acting like this, I've been doing this since I started in 2019. We got nailed in 2019 for this, why? Because they just rely, if you just follow the process and read the contracts, there's nothing, everybody's making a bigger deal.
So
out
let
of
me ask you
it.
this, because I always did do this anyway, I would talk about the commission. I've been talking about the commission, probably, I've been doing this 6 years, probably the last year, I make sure that they understand out of the commission how much I'm paying the buyer's agent. Because I also feel like it's very important that they understand that the buyer's agent gets at least 3%, because I want as many buyers agents to want to show my
Yeah, I
house.
don't talk about commissions unless they bring it up, and again, nothing's
Okay.
changed, everything's
Yeah.
still, this is why a family reunion during the vision speech.
Yeah.
It's like, we're not talking about, it. We can't, it's like, it's an active, ongoing thing, nothing's changed
So
his
wait,
one-
before you say, so I missed that, I missed that.
in the vision speech. I mean, it was like 4 seconds of the speech, he started the vision speech off, he's like, we're not talking about it. People want to know about the lawsuit, we're not talking about it, we're leaving it be. One thing he did say in there, and this is 100% spot on, were you at the vision speech? Were you?
I was sleeping.
I watched it.
Sorry.
I'm paying for this one, you guys are paying for the next.
Exactly, he's like, because all the lawsuit stuff's about, from whenever it's settled backwards.
Yeah.
Going forward, you basically, lack of a better term, you bleep it up. That's on your.
He said if you can't be professionals and follow the process, there's a
Exactly.
door pretty much, is what he told
Exactly.
everybody.
And I've never seen him actually be that way.
He was straightforward about there's a door if you can't follow the process.
Exactly. So this goes back, you asked this 9:30 this morning, buyer agency agreements. Again, not mandatory, seemingly will become mandatory. It's all in phrasing just like commission, in my opinion. If it comes up, I'm not shying away from it, I'm not bringing it up. But the buyer agency agreement, Nancy, you and I are gonna spend a lot of time finding you the perfect. This just ensures that we're gonna work together, be honest and open with each other to make that work.
Loyalty.
Here's a.
And then a loyalty agreement, it's a great way to put it, that's what Hoover calls it. But I put it that way, it's like, it's not, I don't trust you. Now, when it becomes a legal document,
I'm trying to find it in here and I can't even find one.
it's in the IAR,
It's the buyer agency.
it's under the, and DocuSign under the IAR.
Just put it buyer, you'll see it.
I did.
But that
I
just
did.
shows like, we're working together to make your goal. We're gonna be open and honest and communicate. And remember, the second half of that document is all about your responsibilities as the agent. I can't just have you sign it, and never talk to you again, then you and Dave start talking, he shows you houses, sends you houses. I can't come in and be like, hey, give me my
Okay.
3%, you're like, shit.
See it?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
he did all the stuff, so the first half is just like, hey, I'm getting three.
It's like exclusive agency.
Second
Just
half
have
is
it buyer,
all
that's
your
buyer
responsibilities.
responsibilities.
But when I word it, that way, people are just pretty disarmed. It's like, oh, okay. But James actually had a great point. He's like, don't be afraid if they say no.
I did.
If you just met them and you ask them to sign and they say, no, it's like. Don't be offended at that, because they may not feel like they know you well enough.
So if you hand them the buyer's agreement and it says you charge 3%, do they ask you or do you tell them that usually the buyer's agent, I mean, how far do you get into that?
Read the room. I mean, some people may, and again, this is where like Reagan Stackhouse made it clear as day, if they pay me 2.75, you're paying me 0.25. I personally don't do that. Like, I'm like, if I get 2.75, I get 2.75. It's not my buyer's issue. She didn't view it that way.
I've never
But-
been after somebody.
Yeah, but she did, but she made it clear from day one, this is how it goes. But I never heard of her losing a client over it. So she must have worded it in such a way. So if that comes up, just you dive into that conversation.
I'm telling you, everybody's making too big of a deal over this, overthinking it. He's right, just go through it. You went through it, and you addressed it.
The bigger things, the items on there now that you have to do, you have responsibilities now.
Yeah, you gotta send them, you gotta be the procuring call, you gotta show them how, or send them houses being active communication. This is where tracking things in command will be vital. Hey, I called them here, 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 here. There's that add activity button in the contacts. So add activity, call, we talked about blah, blah, blah. Now you got documented proof, we talked on these days.
I remember when I went through training, initial, they said to keep your notes. I assume.
100%.
Like this.
Because if anything happens, you wanna be able to say, this is what happened. And texting's not as good as phone calls. Because texting, and I always thought about it, because you can edit text change, because you can delete lines out and stuff. But they, like, the bigger reasons, actually, I could put your phone number and call Nancy, have us text back and forth. And make it look like you and I were texting. So it'll say Nancy on the screenshot,
Yeah.
but it was really me and you, like,
The other problem is they can't get them, the phone carriers take forever. I mean, I settled a case while we were waiting on tech stuff, because it was a wreck case. And they wanted to see if somebody was on the phone. Both sides had agreed to subpoena the phone carrier. They take years. So you're gonna, to get, it's much easier to get email proof than it is for the courts to even subpoena text records.
right. So that's where that comes into play, because if anything goes on the trade and anything happens, you want documented proof that you called and talked, all this. We're gonna kind of summarize everything unless there's questions. So it starts from day one phone call. We gotta classify them. Are they active? Are we watching? Are we nurturing them? And then inside of that, how often do we communicate? The number of touches. It starts there. Okay, going back. Agents will work with, or clients will work with agents that seemingly care. So you reaching out, trying to be of help, all starts right there. So as soon as that lead comes in, whether it's a referral, they clicked on an ad, you met him at an open house. What's that initial phone call look like? Or that initial conversation look like? And then where are we putting them? And then how many touches? Remember, active, so 90 days or sooner. The watch bucket would be like a year or inside of a year. Anything over a year would be more than nurture bucket. So they're gonna be 2 years down the road. We qualify that they're truly gonna be 2 years down the road. Now we get to where they're ready to go. They're active, they're ready to search. We need to dial in the needs versus wants. Again, it's in our client's best interest. How are we having this conversation right here? We keep saying 2 bathrooms, we keep seeing houses with 1 bathroom. We need to knock that off, kind of thing. We need to be that bold with them because it's just saving them time. We don't want to see them settle. And anything we talk about with our clients along these lines need to be about what's in it for them. Like, I don't want to see you just settle for a house because you're just tired of searching. We talked about X, Y, Z. And this also gets into their motivation. Sometimes we'll have that conversation at step 1, sometimes we gotta wait for step 2. But we need to know their motivation. Do they need more space? Do they need less space? Do they want everything on one level? Are they tired of HOAs and they wanna be out in the country? Inside of designs, there's a great questionnaire built into the buyer presentation and listing presentation that talk about their motivation and what they're looking for. Have that page ready to go. Don't be afraid to take that with you to open houses too, because you may get somebody that walks into an open house ready to have these conversations. Have that in your backpack ready to go. So if they're ready to talk, get that out there, and that's your guiding light on the questions to ask. How many open houses have you guys gone to where the agent's just sitting there on the couch or in the kitchen? Hey, thanks for stopping by. Or hey, here's some info on the house, and that's as engaging as they get. If you have this prepared, ready to go, to dive into these kind of questions, what they want, what they need, what their motivation for moving is, you're gonna build a deep connection right out of the gate. And remember, sometimes these 2 are tied together, just depending on how quickly they're looking to transact.
always tie together. 99%.
Right. I mean, the only time they need to be separated, if they're like a year or more out, then it may take, because their needs may change over the course of that year.
That's why you gotta nurture, that's where the importance of follow-up comes in.
Yeah.
Lives change, I've learned that in real estate, like they may not have been a buyer, now they are, you call them on their nurture, oh, yeah, no, my granddaughter just moved back in with my great granddaughter. Now we have extra people in the house, it's amazing how many people.
So now we're under contract, we're in that kind of phase of the game. Answer questions before they ask, so understand the process so in depth. You know where most questions come up for clients. Build something around getting that to them. So whether that's in your next steps email or whatever that looks like. But try to answer and put them at ease at every step of the process. And then constantly follow up and check in, again, going to a few slides ago. We should be checking in with our clients nonstop. How are things going? Any questions I can answer? Again, this is how you get this section better, because you keep hearing the same question over and over. Now you know you need to build something around that.
What do you laugh about? You gotta share with the rest of them.
So now we get to, we're past closing. Get reviews, have them leave testimonials for you. And then don't forget to follow up, so anniversary cards, birthday cards, all this kind of stuff. This is ways just to stay in touch with our clients. And all of these things can be built into a system. Build yourself a smart line that you attach, classified by each of these things or whatever you want to do. Have it written and hanging near your monitor at your home office or whatever it is. But this should happen for each and every one of our clients.
See, I just keep a task on every single person.
And
I
that's
don't
right.
get smart, then I just change the task each time, so they each get it.
And somebody in here might print this out, like create this and print it out and have it stapled to the file folder. And they're just checking stuff off as they go.
I just do tasks.
All right, guys, any questions before we wrap up? I know this was a lot, but just put yourself, like, you gotta kind of create two sides of your mind. One, you're the agent, the other side, you're kind of my client. So work through it, like, what do you want this to look like? What are the feelings you want them to feel at each of these things?
No, this is all-
This simplistic of a flow.
I could, but it-
Think about the, why I keep bringing up the Starbucks, it's so simple. Keep the place clean and put your name on it. And they sell billions of dollars of coffee. That probably costs them $74. You know what I mean? Like. They get top dollar because of that. Nobody's in there arguing prices. They know the price is going in. So don't worry about the commission conversation. Create this, won't matter.
Exactly.
Well, thank you guys for coming in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it works, if you work it.